Welcome everybody to another episode of SKELETALK. Of course, I'm not by myself. Kane, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. I'm just my day is starting and your day is ending. We found out, so that's
Yeah,
amazing.
our time zones. Gotta love it.
Oh man, but how's everybody? Thanks for joining us. A new nifty little feature that I guess we unlocked here on StreamYard is now your comments can be seen on screen at all times. We'll test it out. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you guys like that, there you go. So yeah, hi to Wretched Goulet, Bar,
Hello?
Rocco, Stu. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, and it's our
GG.
second
Hello?
part
Ton ton ton.
of what's the Brothers Fore
Brothers
second
for
part.
man, you forgot that immediately.
I have too many names in my head. I was like Skeleton. No, it's Brothers Fore.
The book. What's
Oh,
that book? The skeleton for? What's happening?
Skeleton Fore. Oh yeah, but yeah, man. Our second part, I believe we're gonna start with chapter 4 and see how far we get. I don't want to overpromise. Maybe 4 through 6, 4 through 7. I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm hoping. For context now, Historia is reading it live for the first time, complete blind reaction. I have now finished the whole thing in my own time. So I know where it goes, I know what happens, I'm the arbiter of the story.
and I have not even continued one word past where we left off because if I read, I go to sleep. So, but
it's
we
like
do
it's
have
like a chicken getting a bag over its head. It just assumes it's night and just
oh my God. But we do have some support here from the Shape of the Shadows. Thank you so much. Says, hey, Historian Chronicle, and to the Ghost History Ghouls. How are you all? Let's go for another SKELETALK. Let's
let's
go.
go.
So
Uh,
yes,
Hi, Shape in the Shadows. It's good to have you again, and thank you for supporting Historia.
let's see. Bar Chronicles. Same. I finished reading it this morning. Man,
GG also
all of you
finished it.
guys.
It's great. Looks like we're all outnumbering you, Historia.
Yeah. Readers compared to non-readers, which apparently is just me. Even though I'm the one that reads it live, but so that's
And
my
the Shape in
excuse.
the Shadow also finished it.
So did I, Chronicle. It's so good. You know what?
Right?
Thank you for the support. Oh man. But no, for
No
the
spoilers though, as some people haven't finished it, and especially Historia hasn't finished it. No spoilers. If you spoil it, I'll get you. Chronicle Ghoul, more like Chronicle Growl. I'm not growling on stream. I'm not. Listen, the last one was embarrassing enough.
it's not growling yet. But you do have another. I think you were telling me you do have another. What do you call them? The Cranticles or the
Chronicle,
Cranticles of Narnia? Whatever you got going
as
on
as
there.
as they were. So the name was so blessed to me. This one is a Johnny Bush related Chronicle. I also have another one that I'm debating telling that I told you a story behind the scenes, but that one's just kind of sad. So the Johnny Bush one, he's got these limited edition artworks of Perpetua in this like Miami, like really great color scheme, and I wanted to get one. Problem is my phone broke. The one that had my PayPal, everything on it, and I got a new phone. It's right here in front of me. Putting PayPal on this thing broke my PayPal, and it's limited everything I can do on it, but I can't unlimit it. So I try to delete it, but I can't delete it because it's limited, but it's limited, so I can't delete it. I want to buy his stuff, and it won't let me. Release me! It's so annoying too because the artwork is so good. I highly recommend you all check him out. And the ones that he's releasing are limited edition, also hand signed, I believe. He doesn't even know that I'm like shilling him right now. I just think his art's good. And also, he wrote the book that we're currently reading.
Oh man. I'm just letting you. I'm just letting you go
Just
until you're
letting.
done.
All right. So the second one that I told you, Historia. I got the limited edition, limited to 200, Manchester photo print from Ghost, and also the Spillways art, the astral map art personalized thank you note, and all that from Johnny Bush. And I kept them all in a small little cardboard letter. Very small, put it away somewhere. But I live in a village where, like, recycling, obviously we do that, put bottles away, this and that. But with cardboard, sometimes it can be easier to burn it. Someone found this small box somewhere just out there and assumed, man, people are littering all over this fucking house. And it was put in the pile. Those are gone. But I still have the coin, which is pretty cool. But yeah, those are
I have a
straight up
question.
gone. Yeah, what's your question, man?
I have a question. So where did you hide this? That somebody else found it? Like, you didn't put it in your room?
I think I took it downstairs at one point and put it on a table because I was like, I was doing like a, big kind of like spring cleaning. I was doing spring cleaning in my room, organizing stuff. And then I think I put it on a table and left it there. I left it about
somebody in your
too long.
family got to it and just thought it was like something to recycle and burn.
Yeah. And to be honest, it wasn't like a big, hefty box. It was a small little thing that looked like it had nothing in it because it just had a bunch of paper in it.
Oh,
but that was good paper. That was real good paper.
Even the personalized letter. Wow.
Yeah. So those are all gone, but nothing ever lasts forever. I did buy frames for them, but I just put my Sister Imperator comic in one and my Peach Pit set list in the other.
R.I.P. to the Astro Map.
Oh!
R.I.P. to the Spillways art.
Oh, the personalized thank you. It hurts so much you showing me them.
Wow.
You're inflicting damage onto me.
I just wanted to give people a visual of what you lost.
Clutching my heart. Falling. But yeah, that happened to me. That's my little Chronicle. It's not as funny as the other ones. I am plagued with bad luck. I am plagued with bad luck. Like the midnight release thing, and now this, and then my phone breaking the other week.
And now with the phone breaking, it was the effect of now you can't order the prints for Johnny Bush. So
yeah, right.
Oh my God. It's a series of unfortunate events for you.
I'm so Lemony Snicket with it. I'm Count Olaf. I'm I'm oddly bald and I look like Jim Carrey.
God.
Could you imagine?
I don't want to.
You hosted this with someone that looks exactly like Count Olaf, big nose and all.
Bald is right here. Oh no!
The Bald King.
That's already that's bad enough right there. So, but yeah. Other than that, there's not really much news in the world of Ghosts besides they either play tonight. They're playing there, or today they played it, or are playing the last show. I think you said of the European leg of the tour.
Yeah, I think it's already over, but I might be wrong.
And then you said in 3 days' time they have that Queen tribute on like Swedish television, right?
Yes, but it'll probably be live streamed by some means over to here, somewhere on YouTube. We'll be able to find it. Yeah. If I had to guess, realistically, they're gonna probably cover Who Wants to Live Forever? Because Perpetua.
I guess that's a good guess, yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll be on the lookout for that. See if there's any footage that comes out from it, hopefully, or at least some professional pictures or something. But yeah, other than that, really nothing else really going on, man. We're kind of in that period now where we said we're, kind of like in hibernation.
2026.
Yeah. I really hope we're not waiting until December 2026. Don't put. Please, no.
I actually have big news. Ding, 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 ding. I'm ringing my bell, my big news bell. It's very important news, I assure you, Historia.
Okay. I believe you. Go ahead.
Ghosts have added the Cardinal Copia plush to Roblox.
Wow, I would never trust you again when you say
That's why I'm not in charge of the show. It'll be a shit show.
big news. Oh, but that's cool. So they added the Cardinal Copia, not the. Is it not the Frater? No. Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it costs like 2 actual real life dollars to buy too.
Dang. I don't know. They're like limited time only for a digital item.
They're not doing that with these ones. Otherwise, they won't get their moolah.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's it for the news. There's nothing else really going on. So is it straight to book time? Straight to reading time?
I guess so. Since like we said, nothing else, unless you guys think of something that we missed that might have been happening throughout this last week.
Give us content.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been enjoying the Ghoul Bangers Ball videos. Like, Ghoul will actually like have to tell me like, "Hey, a new one is out. Watch it," and then I'll watch it. So I kind of like save them for when I'm off, and then I binge like the 2 or 3 that they released, and now those are going to be gone. So those were at least some type of small content that we were still getting about the tour, but those will be gone. Maybe the last 2 or so are left. So the link shipping one should be kind of interesting to watch. That one, the homecoming one, that should be good.
Yeah, where everyone was like, "Welcome back, Ghost."
Yeah. Have they really not been there since 2015, or were people just sharing like, here's where we started and here's where we are?
I think it's a here where we start, here's where we are kind of deal.
Okay, because I was like, they had to have been there in the meantime, like the in between.
Maybe. Oh, Cardi's in chat. Hi, Copia.
Oh my god. It's time for fake Fratters chapters.
We can hop. If he doesn't show up in these chapters, we're gonna start seeing revolt in the live stream.
All right, let me get these loaded up really quick.
Hi, Cardi. Did you like the new sleep theory? Why did I read that thinking you said Ken like you were talking to me? I'm egotistical.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. Does this work right there with the little comment on the edge? I think so, right?
I think so. I think when we see the actual like text pop up, we'll be able to see if technical difficulties, everyone. See how it like maybe goes over. If not, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. So we ended chapter 3. Chapter 3, what was that? That was he was towards the end of chapter 3. He was riding back to the kingdom because he heard that his brother was dying, right? And then he gets there, but he's already dead. He doesn't make it in time. And then it kind of does pass to him at the end of the chapter, right? Like kind of like okay. So that's kind of where we ended it. And we were noticing that, or at least I was, because you already know everything that happens. But we were noticing the Nemo. He was somehow, it just seemed like as these were dying, he was kind of, I don't know, getting younger in certain ways. Hair color was changing. He could move a little faster.
Yeah. And Mansfield even commented on it, like something like you're spry for your old age. Were you not complaining about like back pain but a few weeks ago?
Yeah. All right. So that's where we left off right there. So, okay, here we go. So once again, I'll do the narration and you'll do the voices.
Wonderful.
Okay. As long as it's not like chapter 3, because most of that one, I was like, oh my god, is there anybody else talking? The voice was going to go out. Like I was falling asleep while reading it. Like, oh my god. Okay. All right. Chapter 4. Better Days.
Time for what?
Replied Matrios, whose head had dropped to a slump. With a delicate hand, Nemo raised his golden child's chin upwards, greeting him with a smile both genuine and sorrowful. Running his fingers through his son's hair momentarily, hair that still held the damp of melted frost, he saw himself in years gone by, before the quickly approaching times of ill health and death began to loom. He nodded in understanding of the burden his son would now undertake and the woes and sadness that too often linger closely in the shadow of the crown. A tear began to form in his eye, but he held it back. He must not let his cherished son see,
For destiny, Matrios.
answered Nemo softly.
We cannot tell it when and where it may pass through our hands, and we cannot escape its great chains.
Nemo rubbed his son's arm with an unknown sadness.
It is time, Matrios. It is time that this kingdom lived beneath the rule of a kind and gentle king, one whom loves and loves with all his heart, a heart not tainted by anger or of greed. It is time for...
The old ruler started, swirling his hands to find the words his mind began to string together, swirling the mental chalice of wine that was his thoughts.
It is time for better things, my boy. It is time for better days.
Nemo smiled.
Meliora, as my mother used to say in the old tongue.
Okay.
Meliora.
Nodded Matrios. The young prince had been the king's final progeny, and as is typically the way in the hierarchy of children, the last is often the most favored and protected. Matrios knew and felt this all too well. Correggio had been forgotten, and Stenduio was chosen to be the successor as a headstrong ruler who did what needed to be done, even if he disagreed with its consequences. Matrios found himself questioning whether he had been the only sibling to ever feel the gentle side of their father, rather than the vicious wolf as many within the castle walls saw him. There was an eerie silence as the two stood bathed in moonlight, until the luminance cast around them flickered from a disturbance outside the window, momentarily casting them in shadow as it passed by.
A bird?
Questioned Nemo, looking up to the glow of their lunar protector.
Too big to be a bird, father.
Explained Matrios.
Strange.
Said Nemo, squinting his eyes towards the window. Matrios' hand squeezed his shoulder reassuringly.
Look at us, already seeing ghosts and specters.
Chuckled Matrios.
Go get some rest, father. I would like to spend a few more moments with my brother.
Nemo paused, then kissed his son on his cheeks.
Death makes us stronger, Matrios. I should know.
He sighed morosely. The young prince watched as his father left the throne room, shutting the great doors behind him as he made his final exit. The sounds of the haunting choir from inside the castle lay upon the prince's skin, as if a babe was swaddled in their mother's cloak, safe and loved. The candles scattered around the room held strong. No small winds or small draughts. Draughts? Droughts? What is that? Draughts.
Drafts.
Drafts? Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Creeping in through cracks unseen caused the small flames to flicker, their light ascending straight and respectfully for Matrios in his time of reflection. In a slow and courtly manner, Matrios dropped to his knees and ran his hands along the detailing that encompassed the glass coffin that held his brother, while the knights came to stand behind him in a protective line. He spoke softly to Stenduio, hoping that whatever eternal glade he now resided in, his words would find his ears.
How could this happen, dear brother? How could the great Stendwheel leave himself to be killed in such a manner? Who would know how to find you down there in the spillways?
He waited for his brother's eyes to open, but that relief never came.
I will not cry, dear brother. You always told me to do what I wanted, but alas, I never saw a tear stain your cheek, so I never did.
Matrios placed an unused candle into a holder and ignited it into life and came to stand once more by his brother's side.
There is something very wrong with this family, brother. I feel it, and you felt it too. I know you did. You're simply too stalwart in upholding tradition that you never said it.
Mused Matrios, holding the candle above his brother's face. As he looked down, strange shadows began to dance on his own visage in the glass covering. From the conflicting directions of candlelight below and moonlight above, Matrios regarded his reflection and the curious patterns of light and shadow. His brother's mitre fit perfectly
Mitre.
atop his mitre. Okay,
Yo.
atop his own head in the likeness for the coffin surface. The dark shadows formed unusual yet symmetrical patterns on Matrios's face. Large black patches formed in the recessions of his cheeks and eye sockets, and the direction of the light so too caused his upper lip to find the shadows and a long strip from the tip of his nose to just below his brow. Matrios looked upon his ghastly appearance, a striking stylized skull of sorts upon his face, cast in the glow of light and shadow that surrounded Stenduio's body.
Lord Eternus the Third,
Matrios said to his brother,
I will make you proud, Stenduio. I will rule this kingdom with a fair hand and a loving heart. Gone are the days of darkness and secrecy from this kingdom. I will be a king of the people, dear brother. I will be the shining in. I can't see that for the chat.
"Okay,
Oh,
in the light, without whom they
they
cannot."
cannot see.
Matrios held back his tears once more.
I will be the catalyst for the change in this family.
Let me go ahead and take down the chat thing for now.
Ghost reference.
There we go. Yeah, reference. And there was the previous one too, the Meliora.
Yeah.
That freaking meme from Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, Matrios leaned in and kissed his brother's lips through the glass coffin and rested his forehead upon it momentarily.
I love you, Stenduio. I have loved you more than any one person in this kingdom. I shall have to remember you now for longer than I had the privilege of knowing you. Go softly into the night, dearest brother.
With that, Matrios took his leave from the throne room, and one by one, the nameless knights followed suit, leaving Stenduio to rest in the embrace of the moon. As if some great spell had bewitched the young prince, time began to flash before his youthful eyes. He seemingly sat still as all around him his life moved with a hastened step. He saw himself sitting in great banquet halls with his father, whilst they entertained legions of guests, showing off the next king of the family. He saw himself gazing at his reflection in a great and ornate mirror as the family tailor intricately measured every inch of his sought-after figure before crafting the deliciously detailed chasuble of his royal uh,
Liturgical.
liturgical vestments. In the next moment, Matrio saw himself meeting the good people of his kingdom, offering personal sympathy while he still could, as a strange illness started to befall the commoners of his city. The strange blight-like symptoms of those affected brought them out in blackened, oh my god,
Buzz.
buboes, and struck them with bouts of vomiting and high fever. Even some of the Franklins, those who found themselves better off with the allowance of owning small portions of farming land on the very outskirts of the kingdom, had been struck by the strange pestilence. Illness was not an uncommon occurrence in times such as these, yet for one so volatile to strike out of nowhere seemed out of place. As if hit by the bone-shattering blast of cannon fire, Matrios was suddenly slammed down into the seat of a throne, surrounded by a sea of guards, royal guests, and the robed clerics who operated within the halls of the castle. He shook his head to displace the fog. The last few months leading to the coronation had passed him by as if a dream. Something caught his eye as he came to his senses. Sat beside him on the back of the throne was a small red cardinal. Oh, reference. The winged guests chirped a pleasant chorus before fluttering off into the rafters. Matrios smiled as it disappeared, a good omen if ever he saw one. The nameless knights stood either side of the prince, ever vigilant and ever silent. Their presence brought him great comfort. It was a subtle link to Stenduio. There was a hush over the great hall. Burning sconces illuminated the great and tradition steeped event, gently illuminating the sporadic fall of rose petals that were periodically scattered from above in the rafters. Lord Nemo emerged from the shadows in his full and exquisite Papa regalia. of white and gold, wearing his tall, intricate, my God, mitre?
Mitre.
Mitre, okay. While brandishing a staff wrapped in pearl white ribbons, topped by the mighty family emblem. In the great throne at the end of the hall, on a platform higher than those in attendance, so that they may only in this moment look up to their soon to be appointed monarch, sat the radiant and picture perfect Matrios. The black haired prince sat upright and sturdy as he had been instructed, glaring down over those who gathered before him that day. Flowing down the young man's immaculate physique, a midnight
Oh,
chaucer of the finest silk did descend to the ground, washing outwards as if a black smoke crept away from the prince in fear. A deep and passionate violet underside of the prince's garments struck through the darkness of the room like an arrow, proudly boasting that Matrios's flair bore beneath the seriousness of his new attire. Looking out at those before him, glaring out in the darkness of the room, Matrios's visage finally bore the white and black mark that had been stalking him for years, biding its time. In a striking contrast of black and white paint, Matrios finally displayed his ghost, replicated from the shadows cast upon his face atop Stenduio's coffin. For such a beautiful face to hide behind such an imposing and monstrous grimace should be a crime against humanity. Nemo stood before the congregation and hit his staff into the ground with three resounding knocks. He took one momentary glance back at his son, who did not smile and did not scowl. He simply gave a nod. Nemo nodded back in understanding, then cleared his throat to speak.
it is often said in times of turmoil.
Reference. Nemo began placing a hand to his heart before extending it outwards over those before him.
In times like these, that belief can be contagious. It can spread like disease if we are not careful.
Lord Nemo began to pace backwards and forwards.
We have all heard the stories, the rumors, the falsehoods being peddled of a witch that stalks this kingdom, that watches us and waits for us like a bird of prey. Some watcher in the sky. We are falling victim to the darkness of these rumors, these mistruths.
Matrios's eyes followed his father as he made his opinions known. Whether it was the right time for such an outburst or not, Nemo continued.
I say to you now, fair people of our inner circle, the newly arisen illness is simply that, a common cold brought on by the ills of a harsh winter and the stresses and strains of a fanciful blight. It will have left us before we even have time to realize it. Now,
Nemo boomed.
we gather here today to bear witness to a moment in history that will surely be scribed in golden ink and held sacred for as long as the wind blows and the sun rises. Dark tragedies have befallen me as a father that no man should have to endure. No father should have to bury their own children and be allowed to live in their place. For this, my heart is broken. It is broken in ways that can never truly mend.
Matrios clenched his jaw tightly. Nemo paused momentarily to collect his thoughts, then spoke again.
Our kingdom has been ruled by kings of power and tenacity,
Said the old lord, his eyes transfixed on the crucifix on his staff.
of tradition. Perhaps now we will try a different approach, where other callous hands have tried. Perhaps now it is time to let gentler hands hold our kingdom.
Explained Nemo before looking again to Matrios.
Perhaps now it is the time for better days.
He smiled.
Meliora.
He whispered to Matrios.
Meliora.
Whispered Matrios in reply.
He has been known by our citizens as the shining in the light without whom we cannot see.
Smiled Nemo with pride.
He is the young prince who has been known to break the rules but at a cost to no one, leaving nothing but joy and respect in his wake. He is the disobedience that holds us together.
In lines before the king, leading down the rug-lined steps and out into the great hall, hooded clergy members raised high their Busine trumpets and began to sound loudly their powerful and heroic melodies. The knights presented Nemo with the box. The old yet sprightly lord removed its contents and came to stand behind the still-seated Matrios. He raised aloft a pearl-white mitre with golden detailing and held it high above Matrios' silken hair.
Men and women of the clergy, I present to you the new king of the Eternus bloodline, the third ruler of our beloved kingdom.
Nemo placed the mitre gently down upon Matrios' head, the weight of which cast a heavy burden on its wearer.
I present to you your new ruler. All hail the king. All hail Matrios. All hail Lord Eternus the Third.
A downpour of rose petals fell from the rafters. The trumpets sounded off in anthemic and melodic frivolities, and the sea of those congregated erupted in tears and cries of joy. Matrios smiled. He only wished his brothers were here to share this moment with him, as he was there to share theirs.
This is my chance to make a real difference to our kingdom,
thought Lord Eternus III to himself in a quick moment of private contemplation.
I will rule with an open heart. I will spill my love for these people for all to see. I shall not let my fate hold a mirror to my brothers before me.
Nemo's vice-like grip found its way onto Matrios' shoulder. As he waved and smiled to the joyous reception before him, like a cautious serpent, his voice slithered into his son's ear.
Destiny has cried out for you, my boy.
Smiled Nemo.
Pray you answer its call.
The sounds and sights of the coronation drifted before Matrios' eyes and ears, floating by him like sticks he and his brother would throw in the nearby streams as children. A single conversation or handshake could not be recounted, for on the king's mind his brother's death still held a scorpion sting. As the long days bled into longer nights, Lord Eternus III found himself walking the cold stone floors of the castle alone, lit only by a held candelabra and the ever-watchful searchlight of the moon in the heavens. The sound of Matrios' delicate step would not wake a mouse. It was graceful and precise, and he moved through the archways and labyrinthian corridors of his home as if a phantom. Soft mumblings came from the end of a long corridor, pushed out with flickers of candlelight through the gaps beneath a sturdy wooden door fastened with iron hinges. A voice, familiar and hushed, escaped with a glow of amber.
Father's chambers,
thought Matrios, holding his candelabra to the door, casting light onto the name inscribed upon a golden plaque. Matrios smiled and leant against the door, his ear pressed close to try and listen to what his father was saying. In a rare moment, Matrios could hear his father talking to himself, most probably in his mirror, vocalizing his concerns and feelings, a strange yet humbling moment for a son to hear from a father who usually keeps his cards close to his chest. Matrios listened in. Inside the room, Lord Nemo sat before his large mirror upon a chair with a goblet of wine, surrounded by multitudes of altar candles that had all been left to drip to the ground. Plumes of incense rolled around about the ceiling as if waves atop an ocean, looking at the damned and drowned below their embrace. The old lord ran his rather smooth fingers through their hair that should be gray, yet still held its youthful shine and color. He gazed into the depths of his own reflection and sighed.
Another death, another king.
Nemo groaned, taking a deep sip of wine and wiping his lip on the back of his hand. Another. Oh wait, yeah, right.
You're taking my job.
Yeah.
Another chance.
He sighed.
At what point is my debt paid? Have I not suffered enough at the hands of this cruel game?
He spoke with clear frustration. Matrios pressed his hand against the door for support.
You've taken too much.
Nemo said to his reflection.
Wealth is only valued in hands that can hold it.
He sneered, throwing a bag full of coins at the mirror.
What then when there are no hands left?
He spat. The old lord took to his feet and began to pace around his chambers, garnering the attention of the spiders that watched onwards from their hidden webs.
Matrios is the last.
Nemo sighed, rubbing the large golden crucifix that hung around his neck.
There's no one left but him. Surely the bargain is almost final.
Matrios stepped back for a moment. Did he hear his father correctly? What could he mean, a bargain? Matrios shook his head to displace the confusion. He surely misheard his father, or at the very least, misunderstood his turn of phrase. Nemo had been good to the boy. There was no doubt about that, and there was no doubt in Matrios' mind that his father would not have his best interests at heart. He pressed his hand to the door, then pulled away and turned to leave.
Shit!
Spat Matrios, turning to a line of knights that held even more of a haunting visage in the glow of Matrios' candles.
Have you been there this entire time?
Silence.
Please, don't speak all at once.
Sighed Matrios. The nameless knights escorted the king back to his chambers, then took up their ever-eternal vigil outside the doors. Inside, the newly crowned head of the Eternus kingdom sat before his own mirror to find the letter placed on his stand. Growing tired, the king removed his mitre and placed it beside him, then regarded the scribing of the document. A list as long as the king's arm fell before him. Repairs to the kingdom that required urgent attention, casualties from the ever-growing pestilence, and meetings upon meetings that demanded the king's presence. Matrios threw the letter to the table and looked upon the splendor of his regal mitre. My God, can he stop with this word? It's really, I'm like, okay, we've said it enough.
It's my tur.
My what?
Like imagine the TRE is TUH. My tur.
My tuh. Okay.
Yes.
This feeling in his heart was not the sensation that he thought would accompany such a joyous and momentous set of events. His coronation was paid for with death, and the stresses and strains of his new title were already beginning to seep into the cracks of this young man. Cracks that only deepen with time.
I can see why Stendio stole himself away to the shadows as frequently as he did,
said Matrios to his reflection, momentarily seeing his brother's face as he regarded his own visage. He shook his head to displace the image. A knock rattled at his chamber door.
Yes?
Asked the king. In meticulous synchronicity, raised their swords that lay sheathed in black scabbards on their belts. Matrios raised a gentle hand, urging them silently to not be so hasty.
It's the rats, your highness.
Came the voice of a panicked guard.
More burrows have been discovered beneath the old apothecary. They're growing increasingly more aggressive, your highness. They seem to be...
Guard hesitated, fumbling his words.
Seem to be what?
Questioned Matrios through his chamber door. There was an eerie silence, if not for the creaking of the old door and an almost unnoticeable harpsichord playing somewhere far off in the castle. The air would be still.
My lord.
The guard started.
The rats, they seem to be finding new ways into the kingdom, purposefully. Purposefully?
Scoffed Matrios, taking a sip of wine.
They are rats. What purpose would they have in finding every secret entrance way into our city?
The guard scratched his head and readjusted his helm.
Yes, you're right, your highness. I just thought, what with the blight becoming more of a problem, sire, it may have been necessary to inform you. My apologies for the intrusion.
The sound of the boot step echoed off along the cold stone floors of the upper walkway as the guard returned to his post.
Rats.
Scoffed Matrios as he scribed the word with ink and quill onto his newly acquired list of tasks.
How hard can it really be to sift through these nuisances?
The king looked deep into the depth of his own countenance and became transfixed, and in a moment that turned to minutes, time seemed to pass before the young and beautiful king's heterochromatic eyes. Almost out of body, Matrios watched his life begin to flash before his eyes. The traditional rituals that the king held were filled with adoring fans, to be in the presence of their glamorous Lord Eternus. Over time would become tangled, the pressures to give answers to the blight that became ever more dangerous. Day and night, the young king became hounded for a cure to an illness of which he nor his closest sages could decipher the cause. Was it ill weather, a tainted supply of grain? Just what could be harboring this illness, and for what reason was it here now? Day after day, night after night, the onslaught of pressures began to weigh down heavily on Matrios. As the months pressed on, he found his popularity begin to wane. As a hedonistic prince, he could have his fill of men and women with little to no repercussions or responsibilities to infringe on his pursuits. He was free to come and go as he pleased, simply showing his face if he really had to, while his brother and his father tended the more constant and pressing matters that came with the higher titles. As king, Matrios was forced into every ritual, every court hearing and mind-numbing council meeting to ensure every document was triple signed and stamped. He found every day a painful endeavor with very little to please or pleasure him. It had been months since he had even rolled his tongue between a woman's legs. Now that rabid and promiscuous hunger had been diminished by pressure and strain. Matrios watched as within a year, the creaseless and smooth skin reflection had aged rapidly under the unbearable weight of his mita. He had started to resemble a man at least twice his age, with folds and wrinkles where once only perfection had graced. Even with the king's looks beginning to dampen, his kingdom loved him more than most. His citizens still whimpered in his now mature and commanding presence, especially when appearing for rituals, undressed from the king's usual regal robes and instead donning a more casual suit of black and white. Regardless of the troubled times the kingdom had been undergoing, King Metrios still made compassion and love his mission. The dark-haired monarch would assist the clergymen of the chapel in feeding those hard on their luck. He would hand out fresh clothing, bedding, and toys to families and children who needed them and would spend time away from his urgent duties to help rebuild homes affected by fire or age. Beneath the trouble and the darkness that accompanied his crown, Matrios showed his people what it meant to be a true king. His people loved him fiercely before, but now they loved him unfathomably. Even if their lord could not find a cure for the blight that had crept into their city, into their city walls, he damned well made sure his citizens had what they needed when they needed it. He really was the golden child. And his light did shine on those before him. Matrios found himself once again
You're
staring. Huh?
You're going robot-y, like really bad.
Oh, is it any better?
Yeah, it's fine now. Yeah.
Okay. I think I just talked for way too long. It's like
no, just technical difficulties. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Matrios found himself once again staring at his appearance, and while the sadness of his diminishing youth stung him, the pride that came with his now worn face and the painted ghost upon it acted as an urgent unguent to his wounds.
I'm looking more and more like you with every passing day, stand we all.
Smirked Matrios to his reflection.
Although, dear brother, I don't think I'll ever have your hairline.
He chuckled. Matrios realized he hadn't yet visited his brothers during their final slumber. Whether it be through schedule or a subconscious distance he'd placed to cope better, they remained alone in the family crypt. The thought of his siblings resting without him by their side didn't settle well with the weary king. Matrios stood to his feet and placed his chair beneath his table and donned on his mitre and chasuble, shrugging his shoulders to get the blasted thing to fall properly.
There.
Smiled Matrios, positioning his popple back to perfection.
The king must always look his best.
He nodded. With the closing of his chamber door, the king set off through the dark walkways of the castle, pierced only by sporadic spears of moonlight. He walked alone in quiet contemplation, venturing deeper and deeper still through the depths of his dark and haunting abode, occasionally passing a hooded clergyman on his way.
Evening.
Nodded a passerby.
Evening.
Nodded Matrios.
Oh. I actually had stuff to read that time. That was crazy.
Oh my god. Holy moly.
I do love how they're building up Matrios to be fully this kind and caring king.
Yeah.
Or Lord Eternus. In comparison to Nemo, who's a dick, Peregio, who wasn't really physically able to help with, rebuilding homes, and Stendlio, who just locked himself away to his studies.
Yeah.
I like how they're all incredibly different.
But maybe this is the reason why he seems to be kind of almost age rapidly.
Whoa.
Huh? What happened?
I'm on doing a podcast with Optimus Prime here.
Oh my god. I don't know what to say. No.
Hello?
Yeah. Can
There
you
we
hear
go.
me?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you say before? Sorry.
Oh, maybe that's why he seems to be more rapidly, because he's actually taking on as many of the concerns and responsibilities that he can, to try to fix as much as he can. Maybe there's another underlying reason that I don't know yet, but
yeah, like the turmoils and tribulations of helping these citizens who love him still so dearly is making him go from like this, as we saw in one of the pictures, this like suave, clear-skinned kind of guy, to now being what Terza looks like, with the crow's feet, the eye bags, the wrinkles, the massive turkey neck. It seems like he's really putting his all into helping, but he is not doing great for it.
yeah.
Although he's not bald, like the bald king.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, continues to be very interesting, and now it really is a full-on blight with the whole, what we know is coming from the rats.
The bubonic plague, yeah.
Yeah, so that is increasing. Yeah, so I'm excited to see where it goes. I wonder if this very end here, if that had anything to do with, maybe it was just random clergymen that he was passing that were hooded, but it reminds me of when Stendlio was passing the same hooded figure when he was going down to his, what do you call them, the spillways or whatever it was.
Yeah. His alchemical place.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was meant to give you that similar hint of like, something's maybe going on in there. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm still really liking it.
Hell yeah. I'm having a great time.
Other than my robotic voice, I guess, occasionally.
I'm fine now, but yeah, occasionally it's just like, this is perfectly understandable. I'm talking to my friend of Historia. And then other times it's just like, so it sounds like you're trapped in tinfoil.
Oh, good. Well,
it's fine now, so we got to strike while the iron's hot.
All right, let's continue here. It's probably my mic is like, all right, you're talking just way too much. Just stop.
Silence, Historia.
All right, let's see how much more we can get through. Let's see here. Starting. Okay, cool. Brand new image that I hadn't seen. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm assuming that's now Turnus the Third, right? Okay.
Yeah, Lord of Turnus the Third.
Yep, looking a little rougher indeed.
The age is getting to him. He's still hot though. It's cool. Man, Johnny Bush would agree with me.
All right. Chapter 5, Veneration of Relics. The smell of dust and decay caressed the nostrils of Lord Eternus III the moment that he stepped a delicate foot down into the scarcely visited depths of the Eternus family crypt. Heavy and ancient silken webs clung to every corner and crevice of this haunting undercroft that lay heavily guarded and veiled beneath the castle. A slow and crack of time, buried deep within the marked stone walls that entombed the unholy place, forcing a kazoo-like buzzing, oh my god, melody to sound out into the air. There's your song, Goulet. Matrios stood atop the great steps that further down into the catacombs, hesitant to move through the darkness that lay before him.
This will do nicely,
agreed Matrios to the ghosts he imagined before him. Grabbing a burning torch held securely in place on the wall to his side, the weary king descended into the darkness. Every step caused a scurry of spiders to evade his stride and escape to their webbed homes above, sending small particles of debris down onto the shoulders and Maita.
Ugh.
He sighed, displacing the fallen suit with the shimmy of his frame.
From worrying about catching something that burns to worry about being covered in...
He started, rubbing some of the fallen powder between his fingers.
Mummy dust.
Oh my god. He grumbled.
Hello?
Echoed a voice through the gloom of the crypt, from a room out of sight. What?
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Oh, okay. I was like, no, not road. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. From a room. I just want to go on vacation. From a room out of sight as the tunnel began to bend.
Who goes there? Fear not,
chuckled Metrios, rounding the bend, entering a room illuminated by burning sconces of sharp-pointed iron. The unholy king stood in all his majesty, shining in the light of the sepulchre as... all right. Sepulchre? Okay.
Yes.
As the darkness lay behind him.
It is only me, Lord Eternus.
The tomb was much smaller than Matrios had imagined, oddly paltry for how he had envisioned the crypt of kings would have looked. The room bore 2 glass coffins in which the bodies of Correggio and Stenduo could be seen resting beneath their spectral caskets. Matrios sighed.
Even in death, they exist beneath the weight of the kingdom.
He groaned. A small and hunched-over gentleman made his way through the center of the crypt, hobbling as he came with the torch in his hand. He dropped to his knees with the pained groan and groveled at the feet of his monarch.
Your Highness, oh, Your Highness, what an honor! What a privilege it is to be in attendance of Lord Eternus.
The crypt keeper groveled humbly.
It's not often I get to be so close to the king.
Dobby, he explained, gesturing to the coffins.
This side of life.
Please, please.
Gestured Matrios, urging the crypt keeper to his feet. Painfully, the small hunchback stood and brushed his long robe and tabard free of dust from the ground. He smiled and attempted a bow.
What brings you to the halls of veneration, my lord? Have you come to see me?
Beamed the crypt keeper with a sparkle in his non-lazy eye.
Not quite.
Smiled Matrios.
I have come to see my brothers. I take it they are well looked after down here.
Oh, yes, my lord. Your brothers are dusted every morning.
Bowed the crypt keeper.
See?
He proclaimed, running a finger along the top of Stenduil's coffin.
I've never seen you down here before, my lord. What brings you here today?
Matrios approached his brothers and rested a hand on Stenduil.
I've never been much a fan of death and decay, Crypt Keeper. Yet, as of late, death and decay have found their way within the walls of our fair kingdom. I take it you've heard the news of our recent problems with the Blight.
Asked Matrios.
Yes, my lord.
It's growing worse, you know. I'm doing what I can, but this pestilence just seems to be growing. We care for the ill and burn the residents, but still the plague persists. Our sages work tirelessly day and night to bring forward new cures, new remedies, but as their potions and elixirs begin to work on our citizens, so too does the blight to begin to change. It's like it is listening, learning, as if it is understanding our countermeasures, and readjusting itself to come back twice as hard every time.
Groaned Matrios.
That is strange, my lord.
And don't get me started on the rats.
The rats?
Asked the Crypt Keeper. Matrios nodded with a sigh.
More and more of them keep appearing.
Explained the king.
Multitudes of burrows are emerging all over the kingdom. We burn them, but another 2 are discovered in their place. We've always had the occasional rodent, but this...
He explained.
This is something else.
Matrios regarded his surroundings.
A harsh winter, an infestation of vermin, and now a blight.
Groaned the king.
What comes next?
The Crypt Keeper shrugged.
I just watch over your brothers, my lord.
Of course.
Explained Matrios.
I apologize for my ramblings. You must think me a madman.
He had his own Chronicle. The Crypt Keeper bowed his head respectfully.
You didn't quite say no there, did you? But I'll take it.
Chuckled the king.
Leave me with my brothers for a moment.
Of course, my lord. I'll resign to the shadows.
Dramatic?
Whispered Matrios to himself as he watched the hunchback hobble off to the recesses of the crypt.
That was fucking hard to do.
I was glad you finally had to read a good chunk.
Yeah!
I was like, thank God, my voice is like, you are fine. He looked upon Stenduio, who lay peacefully on a bed of red and gold silk, still grimacing with a heavy frown, just as he wore it in life. Months after his passing, Stenduio had taken on a more gaunt and frail appearance, yet he was still decaying slower than should be normal. Perhaps due to the conditions in which the corpses were kept, Matrios realized his older brother now more closely resembled his face paint than the proud king he once was.
A shame.
Whispered Matrios to his brother, regarding his appearance. The king let out a sigh and removed his mitre, holding it respectfully in his hands.
Everything is going wrong, Stenduio. Rats, illness, stresses.
He began before gesturing to his eyes.
Crow's feet.
He snickered.
I really wish you were here, dear brother. You would know what to do. Father isn't exactly offering much support on the matter. In fact, he's been rather absent as of late. And when I've managed to find him, I've caught him talking to himself, asking himself strange questions and beguiling questions, and agreeing to unspoken answers. Very strange, but then again, hasn't he always been?
Smiled Matrios.
The kingdom really isn't the same without your iron fist, brother.
Matrios patted his brother's coffin, respectfully and comfortingly, and turned to pay his respects to Peregio. Yet something was not as it should be.
Crypt Keeper!
Shouted Matrios, to which the small man alluded from the shadows and hobbled his way over to his king.
My lord?
Bowed the Crypt Keeper.
What is the meaning of this?
Questioned Matrios, gesturing at Peregio's coffin. Before him, within the glass coffin, lay an iron sarcophagus, meticulously crafted to resemble his late and disfigured brother. Where a corpse should lay, an iron rendition did sit in its place, upon a red and gold silk bed, just as Stenduil did.
Where is my brother?
The Crypt Keeper hesitated, not to find time to fabricate a series of falsehoods, but to be respectful and concise with how he answered his king during his time of grieving.
Yes, my lord. Peregio.
The Crypt Keeper took a small duster from his robe and gently started to brush some fallen dust from the top of Pereggio's coffin.
When Pereggio passed, my lord, the poison that took him was volatile and unstable. It caused irreparable damage, causing him to be almost unrecognizable after it had finished with its flesh.
The keeper explained, placing his duster back within the folds of his robes.
In what way did it disfigure my brother?
Asked the stern and angered Matrios. There was an awkward silence.
I am not overly sure, my lord. I never saw the body, only your father, with the assistance of the Nameless, interred him into his iron bindings. Following his passing, your father said he should be the only one allowed to see and handle Pereggio's corpse.
You're telling me no one was allowed to see my brother?
Snapped Matrios.
He was shunned from the eyes of this kingdom his entire life, and even in death he was kept away.
The king growled, upturning his hand into a claw, allowing the light of his burning torch to glint off the golden talons at the end of his leather gloves. The crypt keeper cowered before Matrios' ferocity, stepping away to avoid a strike of his claws. Seeing the fear of the small man before him and the stench of his sweat linger in the air, Matrios stopped and collected his thoughts. For in that moment, he saw his father lashing out at Pereggio in the darkness of the castle. Matrios began, brushing back some of his hair that had come to loose in his rage.
I'm sorry. Forgive me, that was out of character.
I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news, my lord. I am, truly.
Explained the crypt keeper, quickly dusting the plaque at the foot of Pereggio's coffin to retain his high standards.
What is that?
Asked Matrios.
Ah, your brother's memento. In time you'll be asked for yours, just as Pereggio and Stenvia were during their reign. A message, a reminder, whatever you decide you would like to leave for the world to read.
Explained the man, taking a step back. Matrios approached and regarded the message inscribed into the golden plaque. A frown of confusion ran across his brow. Hidden in shadows, death finds meaning. Forever to sleep, not dead, just dreaming. Pereggio, Eternus the First.
I know what you're thinking, my lord.
Said the crypt keeper.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
Pereggio was always peculiar in his own special way.
Sorry, I was just like rereading the thing over and over. I'm like, that is very interesting.
What does that
That
mean?
almost reminds me of the H.P. Lovecraft. I actually sent this quote to somebody recently. The Cthulhu one, where it's like,
Into the darkness.
like that in oh my
Wondering,
god,
fearing.
like that basically like he's kind of just waiting, and that even death may die. And oh my god, I'll have to look it up, but we'll continue. Matrios smiled. Matrios, running his finger over the scribed words. He looked intently at his brother's iron replica, then shifted his eyes to his crypt-dwelling companion.
Open it.
Demanded Matrios.
Please, my lord, it is not possible to...
The keeper began, before Matrios' grip found his neck.
I said, open it.
The crypt keeper gazed into Matrios' white eye and felt his legs turn soft.
My lord, if I could, I would. However, your father holds the key, and we are under strict instruction to safeguard your brother, to let no one see him.
Matrios' scowl softened as he let his younger self regain control of his emotions. He released the crypt keeper and flattened his robes with the back of his glove.
Very well.
He frowned. Holding his torch aloft, the king illuminated his view of the crypt, looking in every corner and behind every partition.
Where are the rest of the family buried?
Questioned Matrios.
My lord?
The rest of my family, those that came before my father, where are they buried?
Your Highness, it is only Stenvia and Pereggio. Before your eldest brother, the crypt was empty. I have no recollection of where your ancestors lie.
Explained the crypt keeper, appearing visibly confused that he did not hold the answers.
How can this be?
Asked Matrios.
The Eternish family has long ruled over this kingdom. Where's my grandfather? My great-grandfather? His father's father?
The Crypt Keeper scratches his chin. Who was your father?
Who was your father's father, my lord?
Matrios began to answer before stopping with his mouth open and taking a step back in surprise.
My grandfather was...
He began, swirling his hand in thought.
Well, he was... my grandfather was... he was...
Let's see. Matrios could not recall anything about his grandfather or his grandmother for that matter. He knew not their history, their name, nothing.
It is understandable, my lord.
Calmed the Crypt Keeper.
You are still grieving for your brothers. Grief can bewitch our minds and our memories. They'll return to you in time, I swear it.
I don't think I can recall any of our family history before my father.
Pondered Matrios.
Oh my god.
It doesn't matter. I will speak to my father on the matter when I next see him.
Understand that.
The Crypt Keeper began to say before a forceful downpour of dust from above came crashing down upon them.
Shit!
Spat Matrios, shaking the dirt from his mitre and shoulders as he coughed and spluttered. From above, eruption after eruption exploded in the city streets, shaking the foundations of the crypt.
What is it?
Panicked the Keeper, shielding his eyes as the tomb filled with swirling plumes of dust.
Wait, my lord, do you hear that?
Matrios said nothing as he too shielded his eyes from the falling debris. His ears prickled up alongside the hairs on his arms.
It's her.
Her, my lord?
The witch.
Panicked Matrios. All around him, the haunting melody of a tune so familiar to his ears did ring out in the gloom of the crumbling crypt.
Keep your wits about you, Crypt Keeper.
Commanded the king. Another eruption shook at the foundations, causing slabs of stone to fall from the ceiling above and come crashing down around the two companions.
Watch out!
Shouted Matrios as he pushed the Keeper from the path of certain death. Stone exploded outwards, sending mummy dust up and around the room. The Crypt Keeper fell backwards, launching his burning torch in the dark recesses of the tomb. As the torch hit the ground, the screech of 1,000 ravenous throats rang out, and there in the darkness, illuminated by the falling torch, stood a sea of black and verminous rats, keeping a cautious circle around the light cast by the fire. Shaking the Crypt Keeper turned to the pestilent sea of scurrying claws that lay behind him, only being held back by the glow of the torch, the glow of which became dimmer and dimmer with the falling of more dust from above. He turned to his king, who stood holding his burning torch outwards.
Run, my lord.
The Crypt Keeper mouthed to his radiant monarch. Matrios stood still in fear, the light of the Keeper's torch extinguished.
Run!
He screamed. Matrios turned and ran as fast as his legs could carry him, as the screams of the Crypt Keeper being eaten alive were drowned in falling stone. Eruption after eruption battered at the crypt, creating an impenetrable wall of dust that the king struggled to see through, even with his torch burning brightly beside him. However, it wouldn't last for long. Closer and closer, the sea of rats came to their target, chasing him down like sport through the maelstrom of stone and debris, covering floors, walls, and ceiling, as if darkness itself had spread through the crypt. Matrios bounded the old stairs from the crypt and slid through the crack in the door before standing quickly and holding the door shut. In a split-second decision, the king placed down the large wooden planks that secured the doors and slumped down to the ground. He rolled to his side, heaving and rasping for breath as blood dripped from his cheek. Matrios dabbed the wound with his finger and inspected the blood while the rats battered against the door behind him, pushing him in rhythmic surges as if an elephant were trying to force its way through.
They won't last for long.
Matrios thought to himself. Another eruption bombarded the king's senses nearby from outside the gates surrounding the castle. The screams and wails of fleeing townsfolk rang out in the air beneath an overwhelming smell of blood and rot. Legions of rats exploded from beneath the ground in hidden burrows,
Whoa!
expelling out into the city and scattering off in all directions. The king, disoriented and weak, watched in horror as a man afflicted by the blight vomited into a barrel, only to be set upon by hundreds of the blasted rodent, gnawing at his flesh until only blood-stained bones were left.
I have to get out of here.
Groaned Matrios as he painfully stood to his feet. The king stumbled and limped as he tried his best to stand steady.
My people need me.
The king mounted his nearby mare, kicking her gently to encourage her haste. The horse whined and neighed.
What is it, girl?
Shouted Matrios beneath a sea of screams. Then he realized. As if saying it to his own ear, the haunting melody of the fabled witch rang out. The young king, with an unrelenting dread, it urged and encouraged an emotion within the monarch that he himself could not place. It was comforting as it was stomach-churning. He shook his head to displace the feeling.
Yeah!
Shouted Matrios, commanding his beast to ride. The king rode to the gates that surrounded the family castle as his horse began to resist.
Open the gates!
Shouted the king for his guards to obey.
Are you deaf? Open them!
He screamed. From behind, the great doors of the castle creaked steadily open, and there in the doorway stood his father, Lord Nemo.
Father, what is happening?
Asked Matrios as blood trickled down his face.
Matrios, inside, please, my child. I implore you, come inside.
Begged Nemo. Matrios looked at his father at that moment with unrelenting contempt. How could he hide away in the castle when the kingdom was under siege by some malevolent force? He turned his horse to face his father, head on.
Father?
Said Matrios. Nemo stood silent with a look of fear pulling at his face. He gripped his Maita nervously in his hand.
What do you know?
Growled Matrios. Okay. This was a really interesting freaking chapter. Let's see here. Okay, I found the quote, so let me go back.
I believe Ghoul actually put it in chat.
Okay. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons, even death may die. Basically insinuating, like this thing is not dead, it's just lying in wait like so long that even death seemed like it died. So here it hidden in shadows, death finds meaning, forever to sleep, not dead, just dreaming. That's very
really interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
I actually didn't know that H.P. Lovecraft quote before this.
Let's see here. But yeah, this is really interesting. The whole kind of like how we were talking about before, like how long has Nemo, been doing this? Now we get it confirmed that there's no other family before Nemo that is even in the crypt at all. So this is like super interesting. I'm in my head. I'm like, what the heck happened to Pereggio? Yeah, this is
that crypt keeper got fucking destroyed.
Oh yeah. That one in that scene in the Mummy with Brandon Fraser where the scarabs are like just going everywhere and they go over a guy and then all that's left is just bones. That's
exactly what happened. Jeez.
What it is. Oh man. This is getting really, really interesting. This is awesome.
I love the suddenness. Pardon?
Although that chapter just flew by. I was like, we're already at the end of the chapter? Dang.
Yeah, right. Some of them just fly by, but others are like, these are lengthy.
All right. Let's see. Is everybody good so far in chat? Everybody good?
How's everyone doing? Everyone enjoying the show so far? Also, if your voice is killing you, Historia, do you want to take a break to get a drink of water or something?
Yeah, I might get a new bottle of water. So just give me Just give me a quick second so we can at least go through one.
I'll entertain chat while you're gone.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay. You all heard that, right? That he just mocked me live in front of an audience. Bottle of water, which I don't say. I say bottle of water. How dare he? This is the last SKELETALK. We hate each other. There's rage. Now that he's not here, I can say the whole truth. We hate each other. we absolutely the rage between us knows no bounds. Can we be entertained with a picture of Metrios? I don't control what you see on screen. This is literally all Historia is doing. Historia sounded a little more British today. I'm infecting him. That's how British people are made. We just infect other people and they start speaking different and weird. I also said doing Nemo's voice is a wild thing. Because like the rest of them sound normal and like Nemo is like very, it feels like expanding your throat, like the airways. Everyone enjoying the show so far? Rocco, GG, Bar, Goulet, Evs? Just shouting everyone out, one by one. I love that you're making Nemo sound more like Orlok. That's just started randomly happening. But because I think Nemo's a dick and evil, it makes sense. Chronicle, do you need a bottle of water? I could do without the sass. I like Nemo's voice, kind of fight. Hell yeah. It's wild and fun. I dislike Nemo though, yeah. I like the voice that Nemo has in my head. Nemo and Nil are very separate entities to me, because Nil is like kind of buffoon kind of deal. Like he's the Copia level of like he says silly things and he does silly things, but he's still like here and with it, and you can have some very nice moments. Nemo is a monster. he beat his disfigured son. Let's not forget that. Cardicopia. Wait, what? What's the word what in respond to that? You're a bit like your dad, Copia. I mean, I love Nil, but both give a fuck about something in the wrong time. Exactly. Nemo is a wanker, and Nil is a lovable buffoon. Buffoon? Sorry, Copia. Nil is awful but silly. Nemo is plain horrible. Agreed. Good evening, Ghost fans and all in chat. Good evening, Ivan. How are you? Nil reminds me of my dad. Yeah, he's a very sweet guy.
All right, sorry about that.
Oh, hey man, it's all good. I've been having a nice little conversation with everyone in chat so far.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, another bottle. What? All right, good to go.
Goulet said that you sound a little bit more British today.
Just with that one line, right? Just bottle of water. Yeah, bottle
Infection.
of water. The blight of the English accent is overtaking us all.
Excuse me, it's a medical condition.
It's the Maita. I know, it really bothered him, right? It's like, bro, just let it go.
Maita.
Maita. Oh
Maita.
my lord. I was like,
Maita injectable.
The last time I see that damn word in the book. I swear to God. All right.
We'll see.
It's a plague.
It's a plague. Really, yeah, I'm the plague bringer. I bring rats and also the British accent.
Maita. You know what, guys? You know what? You try reading 90% of this dang book live. It's a lot of pressure, okay? The weight of the kingdom is on my shoulders.
Is that why you're slowly aging? Well, like quickly aging fast.
Yeah, by the time we finish this book, I'm going to sound like Nemo. Well, actually, never mind. He's going backwards, so never mind.
See you all in the next one.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, by the time we get to the prequel, I just won't even be able to talk. Yeah.
Doing all those voices in quick succession is going to kill me, but it's fine.
All right. Just bear with me, okay? Remember, I can't read, so.
And when he reads, he starts going to sleep. So he's fighting with demons right now.
Yeah. Not dead. I'm just sleeping for eons, or even death may die. All right, here we go. Your little rat noises only. It's freaking so accurate, dude. So good. Oh, speaking of them, there we go. There we go.
I love this. I will quickly say, I love this artwork. Like this specific artwork. If I could like get Johnny Bush somehow and be like, hey, can you please print this off for me? I will pay you so much money.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure you could drop him a message and be like, I just want this particular piece right here.
I love it.
I'm sure he'll print it out and sign it for you too.
I want to make a costume of this specific look of Ion.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is Ion. I was about to say Copia, but it's not.
It's Ion.
Got a cope.
What's Ghost?
It's not Copia. All right. Let's cover possibly the last chapter for today. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. Chapter 6. Vermintide. The distant crackle of burning wood crept through the all-consuming plumes of blackened smoke as it billowed across the skies, raining down a melancholy fall of ash as if winter had returned prematurely. The panicked howls and barks of dogs sounded off like war horns at dawn as they traversed a burning city and fell victim to the sea of black death that recklessly crashed through the city streets, claiming all that fell beneath their legion. The rats scaled every building to their heights, rhythmically and hypnotically flooding through doorways and window panes as if one sentient entity. They poured from the sewers, they escaped from the wells, and clawed their way through the graves in the old and ancient cemetery, exhuming the corpses of the dead as they burst from the dirt with the force of cannon fire. Damn.
Some metal.
Jesus Christ. Matrios grit his teeth as he locked eyes with Nemo, who fumbled a silver blade behind his back, hidden from the eyes of his son, before tucking it safely beneath the leather belt beneath his vestments.
My son!
Shouted Nemo, beneath the cacophony of terror, who suddenly looked tremendously more aged than his usually sprightly self.
Please, I implore you, Matrios, come inside the castle. It is safe here, my child. Quickly, before the city must grieve again.
He pleaded. The Nameless emerged from the shadows of the keep's doorway and came to stand behind their king. Silent and stoic as ever, the knights protected the rear of the king as he addressed his father, should anything unwanted approach from his flank.
Are you insane?
Spat Matrios, removing his Maita and throwing it to the ground. Yes, forever! Leaving it to roll in the soot-stained cobbles. Nemo snarled at his son's actions, then quickly turned his visage of anger to a look of desperation.
Matrios, I know you are scared, but please listen to me. Your father. The people will defend themselves, but they need a king. Please, quickly now.
Urged Nemo, turning to gesture his son inside.
Inside? How could you?
Sneered Matrios, his nose and brow contracting to resemble the wolf-like snarl of his father.
How could you forsake our people when death itself knocks upon our doors?
Nemo looked to the destruction beyond the fortified gates, to the blood in the streets and the rats as they claimed building after building, as if searching for something.
Why do you wish for me to join you in the castle so desperately, father?
Questioned Matrios as he unbuttoned his royal robes, leaving only his casual black suit and white shirt upon him.
What waits for me inside?
Nemo looked upon his son with both anger and respect. Never had his son displayed such authority in opposition to their father, and for such primal and commanding power to come from his youngest and most protected son was quite earth-shaking for the old lord to witness.
This kingdom is dead if you are Matrios.
Sighed Nemo, defeated, thumbing the hilt of the blade behind his back.
Please, my child, your destiny is inside these walls. Do it for me, please. Do it for your father.
In one graceful movement, Matrios mounted his mare and sat proudly atop his mount, as the fires of his city burnt in the distance.
Knights, stay with my father. See to it that he does not leave the castle.
The nameless knights marched to the steps of the castle and gripped Nemo under his arms and carried him, kicking and screaming, into the doorway.
If this kingdom is dead without me,
Said Matrios, kicking his mare to ride.
then in death we will stand united. Yah!
Matrios sundered to the armored castle gates as they opened before him, grinding shut once more when he had cleared them. The king rode like thunder through the courtyards of the castle, beyond the gates, until he came to the main square of the city. Fires billowed from windows of now charred building frames that twisted upwards into the heavens. The king was set upon by screaming and pleading subjects, holding outwards their hands in desperation that their king would somehow save them in that moment. Their skins sat ravaged by fire and smoke. Some residents bore the affliction of pus-filled buboes brought on by the blight that the rats had been spreading for months. Men, women, and children lay scattered on the ground, half-eaten and bloodied, being fed upon by great black rats and carrion birds. Matrios watched in horror as citizens fled helplessly in all directions, followed by the sea of death. The rodents crashed in waves against their legs and up their backs until their knees buckled in submission beneath putrid claws and rotten teeth. Damn,
How can this be happening?
whispered Matrios to himself as he looked on in horror at the sight before him, the demise of his kingdom, in a shower of blood and ash.
Please, King Matrios, help us! Help us!
Screamed an unfortunate soul whose face had been half devoured.
What have we done to deserve?
The woman struggled to say, a blood gurgled explosively from her wounds. Matrios dropped from his horse and held her in his arms, cradling her in safety as she struggled. Her shaking hand reached up to touch her king, but before she could touch his skin, her hand went limp and dropped to her side.
I am sorry, my darling.
Whispered Matrios into her ear, in hopes his words of comfort found her in the next life. The king held back his tears, as always, and kissed the dead woman's forehead, refusing to let her go to the cobbles and forsaking any care of contracting the deadly affliction himself. Matrios finally and gently laid her down, as if sleeping, and placed a trampled red rose on her chest with her hands holding it. He closed her eyes with his fingertips respectfully.
Sleep now, my darling.
Spoke Matrios softly.
The worst of it is over. Meliora.
The moment of sincerity was pierced by the raising of hairs on the king's body, as if splashed with cold water from a bucket. Matrios' ears pricked up. The witch's melody had returned, and it was clearer and crisper than ever it had been.
Where do I know you from?
Whispered Matrios to the ember wind.
From where in my memories do you hide?
He asked. The breeze carried the haunting and nostalgic melody around Matrios' ears, turning his head with gentle hands to follow its direction. He allowed his senses to guide him, letting an ethereal pull grab at his reins as he remounted his mare and set off through the city streets. Mounds of desperate rats piled up around him as he traveled through the death and decay, forming great, squirming stalagmites that reached up in attempt to snatch the rider from his horse. Matrios was too quick for them, yet still they persisted, racing after the king as he passed them by. Louder and louder the melody played, clearer and more precise in its origin as Matrios followed it, guiding him, or perhaps, unfortunately, luring him. Black smoke and blazing fires ravaged the ground around Matrios as he came to the very outskirts of the kingdom's walls, where seldom a subject or guard would be found in the ancient part of the city. Matrios' horse whined and bucked, throwing him to the ground as he reared upwards in unprovoked fear.
Whoa there!
Shouted Matrios as he was flung to the ground with a resounding crack. With momentary double vision, the king could see his horse had not escaped, but kept its distance from where Matrios now found himself. Groaned Matrios, rubbing the back of his head to displace a slight confusion. He stood on his
Concussion.
feet. Oh, concussion. Oh my god. He stood on his feet. Good save. Unsteadily, his vision quickly returning to normal. The melody played loud and boastfully, every note powerful and painful to hear. It played in a circle around the king's head, spinning him on his boot heels as he tried to pinpoint its source, until finally it stopped him in his tracks. Before the king sat a gaping hole in the ground, surrounded by graves of long-forgotten subjects. Moss descended into the depths of the newly excavated abyss. Within its gloomy embrace, the grating orchestra of 1,000 rodents echoed out towards the king, who knew the Reaper's scythe awaited him if they were to escape their hollow. The melody forced Matrios' head to the great wall of the kingdom's border, urging his attention. His eyes narrowed as he exposed his teeth in ferocity, for high above, taunting him from the parapet, stood the darkened figure of local legend. She who was the fear in the hearts of his own subjects. The witch.
You!
Spat Matrios.
Why have you done this? Why have you brought death to my streets?
The king growled.
What have we done to deserve any of this, witch?
He shouted, demanding answers. There was a silence as she dropped her flute to her side.
Witch?
Came the surprisingly gentle voice of a woman beneath the shadows of her hood.
I have been called many things in my time, Matrios. Never have I been called a witch.
She chuckled.
Why do you mock me?
Sneered Matrios.
And how is it that you know my name?
Everybody knows.
knows.
Oh, sorry.
How dare you? Boo him. Everybody knows of the family Eternus, young man. Some more than others.
She explained.
Even me, a witch.
She chuckled, patronizingly.
Yes, it's true. I've been called many things over the years, some good and some truthful.
She began to explain. The rats began to screech louder and louder.
Who are you?
Snarled Matrios. The witch chuckled once more and withdrew her hood, revealing a pale woman of soft skin, full lips, and long blonde hair that lay braided between her shoulders.
Must know me
The witch smiled.
as Pythia.
The melody began to play from the hole in the ground, reverberating distantly but building louder and closer with every passing second.
I'm not here for you, young Matrios.
Pythia explained as the melody rang out.
I'm here for your father.
She smiled.
Decades of planning put into effect for this very moment. How lucky you should feel to witness it.
The melodious sound grew. Huh?
I thought it was another word you
Oh,
didn't show what it was. I was trying to help.
It's all good. Grew to a crescendo along with the desperation of the vermin's cries. Suddenly, a shocking and sickening realization hit Matrios. The melody had been hidden within his subconscious for as long as he had started to hear. It turned his stomach, but comforted him at the same time. There was a reason for all of this. He could feel it, especially now the mystery had been solved in his mind.
The lullaby my father would sing to us.
He whispered beneath his breath.
How do you know it?
He spoke so quietly, it was almost a thought.
Where is the music coming from?
Shouted Matrios, his fist tightening.
Oh, Matrios, you have your undying servants to carry out your protection?
She smiled.
And I have mine.
The lullaby grew so loud it was practically before the king. He looked to Pythia with eyes of sadness and apprehension.
I'm not here for you, Matrios.
Said Pythia with the tone of duty about her voice.
He is.
Matrios removed a cutlass from the skeleton of a mutilated guard and brandished it outwards. The lullaby cried out as a tidal wave of rats burst out from the hole in the ground, flooding outwards around Matrios, surrounding him and spreading off into the kingdom. Emerging from the Black Sea and parting the waves as if some biblical force, came a figure clad in crimson robes, delightfully skipping as he played his melodic lullaby from a flute just as Pythia did. The clandestine cardinal took down his hood, revealing a head of slicked back brown hair, a pointed nose atop a thin mustache, and to Matrios' horror, the same heterochromatic eye as he and his brothers.
Ta-da!
Oh my god, the cardinal exclaimed, shaking his hands in jovial theatrics as the rats poured out around him.
It can't be.
Spat Matrios, pointing his blade at the cardinal.
Matrios.
Smiled the cardinal.
I am not your judge, nor your juror.
He explained.
Nor am I your executioner.
He smiled, withdrawing 2 large daggers from the back of his belt and grinding them together, loosing a flickering of sparks.
Then what are you?
Snarled Matrios. The cardinal smiled.
I am your execution.
Matrios gasped in terror as the mysterious cardinal leapt through the air with his daggers drawn high at his shoulders before plummeting downward with the king's heart as a target. Matrios evaded the attack and rolled to his side, watching as the red figure's daggers struck hard into the ground, sending a momentary glittering of sparks outwards.
Ashes, ashes.
The cardinal sang while pulling his daggers from the dirt and watching Matrios squirm away.
We all fall down.
He laughed before his smile turned to one of complete and malicious dedication.
Who are you?
Questioned Matrios, standing to his feet and eyeing his mare that stood cautiously nearby.
I am your demise, young king.
Chuckled the cardinal as he began to flamboyantly step towards Matrios.
They call me the Cardinal. My name is Ion. I have been waiting to meet you for a very, very long time.
He chuckled. Ion lunged forward like a rabid beast, with his blades drawn to catch his prey. With the click of his tongue, the king's mount was summoned and galloped past him, to which Matrios climbed atop with the grace of a dancer. Ion slammed to the ground, dirtying his crimson cassock. He sighed and sniffed hard to display some dust that had found its way inside his well-endowed nose.
You cannot hide from me, O golden child,
the cardinal proclaimed, standing upright and straightening out his robes. He picked up his daggers from the ground and inspected the blades, regarding the Eternus family symbol that had been engraved into them.
Funny.
He smirked at the inscription, before noticing his reflection in the daggers.
Handsome, too.
He winked. Sheathing his blades, the cardinal upturned his hands and felt a magnetic and symbiotic pull. He clenched his fist and strenuously pulled them together, struggling as if some great weights pulled them back. Within a moment, the screeching of 1,000 of rats rang out, and with it came the scurrying of feet as the black sea of pestilent death returned to their master. What dark magic was this that bonded the red stranger to the rats? Oh, wait. That bent them to his will like some apocalyptic piper. The rats swarmed and circled their master, raising him upwards onto their many backs, which he began to walk across like a moving bridge through the city in search of Matrios. Dude, what the hell?
It's rad as fuck.
This is fucking dope. Like, could this be a movie? Matrios galloped hard through the burning kingdom, through the piles of corpses and dead rats, the broken homes and the upturned merchant stands that once bore fruits and cured meats. He saw families hiding from the chaos, safe for a moment in makeshift shelters as the rats passed by. He acknowledged them with his eyes, as to not attract the attention of the living blight to their secrecies. Crows cawed and circled in the sky as their feathered allies pecked at the bones in the streets, occasionally ripping apart a rodent or taking it skywards back to a nest.
I love the image of that. Could you imagine being one of those rats like, I'm helping the cardinal, I'm helping him, then you just get taken up by a fucking bird, just like...
Matrio circled on his dark mare to survey his surroundings. He'd come to stand by the fountain in the center of the city square, the waters of which now held a rather unfortunate shade of claret that was littered with a handful of dead rats and human flesh. The fetid and metallic stench of the blood hit Matrios like surprise strike to the gut, making him retch with nausea. He spat to the ground to remove the taste from his tongue.
What did we do to deserve?
Matrios was thrown from his horse with something that held the force of a battering ram. The young king flopped and flailed on the ground as he rolled along the blood-stained cobbles, tumbling over corpses as he went. Matrios heard the dying sounds of his mare as it lay crippled and broken not far from where he landed.
You bastard!
Spat Matrios, expelling a mouthful of blood onto the ground. What little sun that had been managing to pierce the veil of blackened smoke clouds became blocked as a monolithic presence cast a shadow over the king. Matrios looked up and found the cardinal standing over him, atop his giant podium of living death that squirmed and screeched beneath his feet, swelling and twisting as the rats continuously moved to rebalance their symbiotic structure, keeping their master aloft.
In these times of turmoil,
The cardinal proclaimed, gesturing outwards to the burning city around them.
in times like these,
He explained.
you see, young Matrios, belief in false kings can be contagious.
The cardinal mused, before watching a citizen nearby vomit up a bellyful of blackened bile before retching and choking to death in a heap on the ground.
It can spread disease.
He said.
You both caused... Jesus. You both caused all of this, didn't you?
Growled Matrios, standing up and pointing his blade at his adversary. The cardinal watched and said nothing.
Why?
Asked Matrios as blood dripped down the side of his cheek.
Why us? Why me? The lies and consequences of one man's actions can spread like a pestilence, young king.
The cardinal said with dead certainty as his living podium lowered him to the ground.
And so a pestilence did spread.
He said, opening his arms to showcase his handiwork.
Why us? Why me?
Mocked the cardinal with the feigned whimper to belittle the king.
I can ask the same questions. Destiny arrives.
He smirked.
On guard, Lord Eternus.
The cardinal darted forwards towards the king. With a vicious wolf-like snarl in his lips, he held himself low to the ground as he lunged, darting from left to right in unpredictable patterns, as if he were one of the rats that made up his company. Matrios brandished his blood-stained cutlass and charged towards his adversary head-on with the same lupine snarl as the cardinal. The pair were brought to blows in a heated onslaught of strikes. While Matrios managed to deflect the first few strikes of Ion's blades, his evident lack of martial training was beginning to rear its head. The cardinal struck hard and fast with each blade, sometimes one at a time in successive strikes before twisting and lunging with both blades drawn. Sparks flew as the blades clattered against each other, violently and relentlessly, entangled in this dance of death.
Give up,
commanded Matrios, struggling to parry the strikes between heavy and painful breaths.
Give up, and you shall be unharmed. I swear it as king.
The cardinal drove his daggers towards the king, twisting his body to form a human drill, but missing at the last second. but not before slicing the surface of Matrios's right arm.
Let me relieve you of that crown, young king.
Spat the cardinal, who hadn't preempted Matrios to defend himself quite so adequately.
It surely bears a heavy burden upon your shoulders.
He growled, slicing his daggers close to Matrios's throat. Matrios held high his sword and caught the daggers in riposte before they could find his neck.
Then you shall have to do better than that, darling.
Winked Matrios. Enraged and in a display of the vermin that he was, the cardinal kicked the king in his stomach, forcing him down onto his back. Groaned Matrios, holding his stomach.
Like that?
Boasted Ion, who began to approach, flipping his daggers in his hands as he saw his mission ending. He pushed Matrios into the cobbles and held the tip of his knife to the king's throat and straddled the young king. Matrios struggled but could not break free.
It is time to pay the piper, O golden child. The debt must be paid.
Matrios' head rolled to the side to take one last look at his kingdom as it burnt around him, feeling the helplessness of his situation weigh heavier than anything he had experienced in his life before, until something caught his eye, and he felt unbridled rage begin to bubble in his gut. Upon the cobbles, beneath a broken cart, and surrounded by bloodied cabbages, a small and delicate hand lay bitten and scarred in a pool of blood, clutching tightly to a toy, gifted by the king on his many aid missions throughout his city. The king gritted his teeth.
So, Matrios,
Announced Ion, pushing the blade further into the king's neck.
I hope it was all worth it.
My name is Lord Eternus III to you, rat.
Growled Matrios, before quickly knocking the blade from Ion's grip as he caught him off guard and delivered a skull-splitting headbutt to the bridge of the Red Death's nose. Matrios cast Ion over his shoulders and ran as fast as his legs could carry him until he managed to reach the castle gates. As he arrived before them, they had already begun to open as guards anticipated his return. Into the castle, Matrios escaped until the great doors to his home were slammed shut behind him. He lay in a slump, bloodied and beaten, but thankful to be alive. Unsure if the Red Cardinal was in pursuit or not, Banchelo, his previous head of protection before the knights took over, stood by the door and bowed before his king.
Banchelo, it is good to see you.
Exhaled Matrios.
Get my father. I must speak with him at once. It is of the utmost importance.
Banchelo knelt and placed a hand over his knee, looking deeply into the bruised king's eyes.
Banchelo?
Asked Matrios softly.
Your Majesty.
Sighed Banchelo, stroking his beard.
Your father is not well. Something dark has found his mind.
Okay. Oh my
Enter
God.
the cardinal.
Jeez. That was not what I expected at all, but it was like a boss fight in a dang video game. That was awesome.
What do you think of the way that Ion is brought in? Is there is this pit surrounded with graves and rats start to pour out of it, and he is like tip-tapping his way like that, like playing the flute upwards.
Oh my God. I mean, it's perfect. And
I
just
love it.
like everything is continued mannerisms, what he says. Man, this is awesome. Like what they're doing with the rats and with him.
He's the plague bringer.
Yeah. Man,
It's
this is really
I love
cool.
it. Yeah, I'm having such a good time. Like rereading this all has been absolutely fantastic, and being able to do my little the fucking voices to everything has been great.
Man, I hope he does more art so that we can kind of get a visual of what these different things look like, you know? I would love to see that, like the fight between them or him emerging for the first time. Or,
I can't paint or like do watercolor, but I want to so badly just to get like a rough kind of idea of what his vibe is. And Abe said, I love how he's still kind of silly. Exactly. He says like silly things and he's dancing around while on the flute. And he's still theatrical, But at the same time, he is going to kill Matrios, it seems. Like, he is out for blood. Like, rushing towards him, scurrying like a rat. It's so good. And I'm kind of sad that we're only doing 4 through 6.
I know, man. I'm sorry. It's just it seems like 3 is like my limit of reading here. I mean, it's good though. It keeps it, it keeps it exciting because it ends right here like oh man, like I want to read the next chapter, but at the same time, I think it's a good place to stop. We're almost 2 hours in. Oh man.
God!
I'm sorry.
It's
Why
good.
is 7 really
so
good?
fun.
Are you really excited for 7 or what?
Yes.
Oh man. Hey, well at least I know like we're gonna start strong next week. But this is really, really good, and there's already like so many, like oh, man, like so many mysteries, so much. The whole thing with like what's going on with the family. Now what's going on with Pythia? Like what's the actual story there? Man, this is really good, but I can't really like. I kind of like ask you or whatever because you do know, so I can't really like.
I do, but everything I say, I'm saying it like I'm reading it alongside you. Like, I'm not going to give away anything that happens.
No, Bar says this is going to be the longest week ever. 7 is so good. No, when you guys are killing me.
We're guilt tripping you. We're gaslighting you.
What's the length of 7? Is it like a shorter one or?
I think, but everyone who's read it, don't say how long. I don't remember it being that long, especially like system of events. I don't think it's very long. Chapter. Ghoul is crying for an encore.
Oh my god, Ghoul, you need to stop. All right. One more. Okay, like they say, encore. One more song.
One more chapter. He has to turn his after show UI into an encore UI.
Oh god, you guys are terrible. All right, at least I'll have the week to recover.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh man. Okay. Let me bring it back up. We ain't done yet.
Says it's like 15 minutes, which compared to the other chapters where it was like half an hour at a time is definitely not that long.
The way you just said it, Shanton, is that supposed to be from like those Italian brain rot videos? Because my youngest child has been watching these Italian brain, and the way you just said it, that's how they are in the video. And all this stuff. And I'm just like, wait. Hold on.
Shanton,
please answer the question. I need to know if the origins are the Italian brain rot videos.
We've had Shanton here for like.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
See, I stand by you, Shanton. I know your vibes, you're feeling.
Abe says, I love Italian brain rot.
Ballerina cappuccina.
Yes! My son is obsessed with these. Oh,
dude, I work at this customer service thing, right? Like I do have a 9 to 5. Everyone, I don't just work. I totally don't just lay in my coffin and imagine these things. And I was like doing something with this like mother. I handed her something and was like, go over here. And her child looked at her the most serious look I've ever seen on a child. Look her dead in the eyes and went, ballerina cappuccina. And it took everything in my heart not to fucking piss myself laughing. Because I was like, why do you look so serious for that little man?
Where did these come from? Because my son just discovered these like, maybe a week or two back. And I'm like, he had never seen them before. So I don't know if this is a recent, thing that just happened.
I think it's very recent. I think within the last week. God.
But yeah, he just plays them nonstop, just all those over and over. He doesn't like say them, but he like mouths them perfectly. I'm like, the fact that you like, I just looking at his little mouth, just mouthing all of them. I'm like, no. But anyways, sorry, Sean Tonton. The way Kane said it, it just kind of like it gave me like, PTSD. Yes,
I
that
know
one.
which one you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I'm not crazy. At least you guys finally know of one reference of what I'm talking about for once. So.
I understand it for once. It's not sleep token, so I understand it.
Oh my god. But yeah, so I'm glad he hires some Italian brain rot kid to voice here. No. Coffee and milk cappuccino. All right. Other chapters so we can let's the encore should be chapter.
We can make everyone happy with doing an encore chapter.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right, chat, you're gonna get off the screen for a second so we can read some more.
You get lost.
Sorry. I don't know why that was hateful.
All right.
The encore UI.
The encore UI. Okay. You look at it'll make it bald.
Don't. I need my hair.
All right. New image for the brothers Fore. Okay.
That's Matrios, all right?
Yep. And a little a cardinal, I presume.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. Chapter 7. The Rose Withers.
What do you mean, Bancholo?
Panted Matrios, holding closed a deep and gushing wound on his cheek. He looked into the eyes of his friend, who usually wore the iron face of a bulwark, unmoving and solid, yet in this moment he looked worried, almost nervous for his king. Bancholo began to speak when the clattering of plate armor crashed out from behind him, followed by a slew of insults and struggle.
Let me see my son,
argued Nemo, trying his best to make. My God, this I can tell. This is one too many chapters. So let's just stumble through this. All right. I have some wine here, some water. I think the wine is gaining. Trying his best to make his way to Matrios.
Unhand me,
he screamed. Lord Nemo fought his way through a crowd of guards as he attempted to place himself before his son. The old lord's straggly gray hair had begun to abandon his head, highlighting just how old the old lord really was.
I can see why he always wears the hat,
smirked Bancholo. Matrios smirked back.
Your Grace, please,
pleaded a guard holding Nemo.
You are not yourself, sire. You must calm yourself from this madness.
Nemo managed to break himself free from the restraints of the guards and stumbled across the floor, dropping his blade, which caught Matrios' attention, who looked to Bancholo to let him know he had seen the fallen weapon. Bancholo nodded discreetly in understanding. Nemo fumbled for the knife on the ground and fell ungraciously to his knees before his son, trembling and desperate in his plea.
Matrios, please, I beg of you, you must come with me at once,
begged Nemo, hiding the knife when he realized his son had spotted it.
You must come with me at once to the dungeons. It is the only place that is safe from whatever lies outside these gates. Please, Matrios, I cannot lose another son.
Matrios had never seen his father in such a state of distress. Never had he seen the wolf so sorrowful. He raised a shaking, bloodied hand to hold his father's face and stroked his cheek tentatively with his thumb.
You're showing your age, father,
smiled Matrios through the pain. Nemo's yellowing eyes found Matrios's, and in them his son saw the desperation of a wounded child.
Please, Matrios, there isn't much time left, my son. Join me in the dungeons, alone. It is the only place I can save this kingdom,
begged Lord Nemo. Matrios placed both hands on his father's face and held it firmly.
You have done enough, dear father,
comforted Matrios, kissing his father on the forehead.
I am king, and I shall do what must be done.
Don't be a fool,
spat Nemo, sneering his teeth and drooling like a rabid beast.
Join me in the dungeons or perish neath the fangs of that rat.
Matrios retracted, uncertain in how to respond to his father's sudden change in temper. He frowned at his father, and in that moment could feel the tenacity and presence of his brother Stenduil within him. He stood to his feet and spat a mouthful of blood to the ground.
Guards,
Announced Lord Eternus III.
imprison my father until I return, for his own safety. Send the knights to watch over him.
The guards marched towards Nemo and picked him up by his arms, holding him firmly in place.
You will regret this, Matrios. This is the death of you and I.
Sneered Nemo. Matrios gestured with his head, commanding his guards. Lord Nemo was taken from his son's sight to the dungeons of the castle, where he would be kept safe from his harm until the threat had been resolved. Banchelo chuckled and turned to Matrios.
I'll see to it that.
Before Banchelo could speak, an explosion from outside the castle gates shook the very walls of the keep, causing dust and stone to fall from above. The head of protection stumbled as the debris scattered around them, but not before placing himself over Matrios.
Are you okay?
Asked Banchelo hesitantly.
I am fine.
Sighed Matrios, patting his friend on his dented iron pauldron.
But not for long.
Banchelo stood and withdrew his sword.
Make your way to the top of the towers, Your Highness. Seek refuge and remain hidden. I will take to the gates.
Matrios nodded and was helped to stand by his companion.
We'll meet for drinks later.
It will be my pleasure, Your Grace.
Nodded Banchelo.
Men, to the gates.
A small legion of heavily armed guards marched towards their captain and exited the heavy doors of the castle entrance. Matrios could hear their armor clanking as they approached the great steel gates of the courtyard to offer protection. He began to make his way up the great stone steps of the castle's staircases. Outside, Banchelo and his guards stood in a protective wall behind the gates of the royal courtyard. The air was thick with the stench of blood, flesh, and black smoke. The skies held a threatening orange glow from the fires that ravaged the kingdom, raining down a constant pour of hot ash, dusting everything in a layer of diabolical snow. Flecks of embers traveled on the breeze as thick walls of smog reduced visibility, rendering their once beautiful kingdom into a nightmarish and war-torn hellscape. The gates to the courtyard were titanic, great metal giants topped with goring spikes and fashioned decoratively with the family emblem. Never had they been penetrated. A constant and faithful Huh? Okay, so never mind. A constant and faithful protector for Lord Nemo and his children. Yet in these moments of terror, Banchelo and his men struggled to feel safe behind their defenses.
Keep your wits about you,
grunted Banchelo. In unison, his guards took up a defensive position and waited, swords drawn, at the gates.
Do you hear that?
Asked the nervous guard with hesitation in his voice.
Is it the wind whistling?
Banchelo's eyes squinted as he focused his hearing, trying to decipher what the sound was. Moments passed as the whistling turned to screeching and chattering, an ungodly noise that deafened and disorientated the armor-clad guards as they stood in line.
Christ, what is that?
Screamed a guard as the unnatural ding rang in his eardrums and scratched at his mind.
Careful, boys,
shouted Banchelo.
It's here.
The desperate cries and screeches of a tumultuous sea of black rats surrounded the courtyard gates, pulsating and lapping against the great walls as if a dark tide against the rocks of a shore. The hellish cacophony seemed to part in two directions as something made its way between them.
Locked, huh?
Came the devilishly smooth voice of the cardinal.
You really know how to make a man feel welcome,
he heckled.
Go back to the depths from whence you came, devil,
commanded Banchelo, banging his sword against the great bulwark to threaten the intruder.
I spent long enough in the shadows, my friend. Tell me, where is the king? I'd very much like to have an audience with him.
Spoke the cardinal, as casually as someone would speak to a friend.
The king is safe. You have no business here with him,
shouted Banchelo.
More than you know,
whispered the cardinal beneath his breath.
I shall give you to the count of 3, my good man, before I simply walk through these gates and find the king myself.
I'd like to see you try, demon.
Spat Bangelo.
Men, prepare yourselves.
The guards raised their shields and held high their swords in anticipation.
1,
Started the cardinal, examining his gloves as if inspecting his nails.
You'll never get him. Lord Adonis III will prevail.
Argued Bangelo, feeling the sweat dripping from his neck.
2.
Said the cardinal, who had begun to pull his upturned hands together, bending the swelling storm of rodents to his whim, causing them to swirl and gather before him, climbing atop one another until finally reaching a wall of biting death that rivaled the height of the courtyard's gates. Bangelo witnessed in horror as the rats began to swell near the top of the gates.
Long live the king.
He whispered.
3.
The cardinal pushed his hands outward, sending the titanic force of bubonic supernatural horrors slamming into the great gates. With one almighty crash, thousands upon thousands of enraged rodents slammed into the metal doorway, splintering them open. The black tide swept into the courtyard, engulfing Bangelo and his men beneath their ravenous might. The screams of men were quickly quelled by the voices of the pests, covering the guards and the ground in a thick layer of squirming vermin. The cardinal skipped merrily through the carnage as his rats parted around his boots, revealing the quickly devoured corpses of Bangelo and his men. He looked down at Bangelo, whose cadaver was mostly gone, as rats pulsated through his deteriorating and devoured guts, while some squeezed in and out of his throat cavity and mouth. His eyes had been eaten early on.
I did give you the option to let me in.
Chuckled the cardinal as he skipped over the bloodied and mangled corpses that dripped with chewed flesh. With one almighty push of his fist, Ion sent the rats blasting through the doors of the castle, gaining him entry. Yet as their symbiotic shape hit the ground, they dispersed, fearful, and escaped out into the kingdom. The cardinal frowned.
Strange.
He pondered, feeling the usual magnetic pull of his rodents had dissipated. He held out his hands and tried to summon them once more. Nothing.
This could be problematic.
He said. He looked to a single rat on the floor and tried his best to command it. It simply squeaked at him and ran off into the darkness of the castle.
Shit.
He whispered.
I guess that's the last of it.
Whatever dark magic had been granted to the cardinal had run its course, or served its purpose, leaving Ion now barren of supernatural aid.
I guess it's just me and you now.
He shrugged, tapping the hilts of his daggers with his fingers. The clattering of something metallic, a chalice, falling from somewhere above in the stairwell caught the cardinal's attention. He smiled, then sneered.
Oh, Matrios.
He snarled.
You really do make this too easy.
High up inside the stone staircase of the castle, Matrios limped and struggled as he made his way higher and higher to safety. As he leant against cold and ancient walls for support, he left a bloody smear, an unfortunate trail of breadcrumbs for the cardinal to find.
Not much further now, Matrios.
He grunted to himself through the agony.
You can do this.
Down below, the sinister and hair-raising voice of the deadly cardinal made itself known.
Ring a roses, pocket full of posies.
The voice came, haunting and cold.
Begone.
Shouted Matrios.
Leave me be.
The voice came again from the darkness below.
Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Slowly, the shape of the cardinal began to materialize in the darkness below as he came to walk through the glow of the burning torches on the wall.
Ah, there you are.
Chuckled the cardinal, withdrawing his blades.
You know, Matrios, I haven't just come for you, so don't take it personally.
What do you mean?
Spat Matrios with a mouthful, hobbling up the stairs.
I came for all of you, as a matter of fact.
explained the cardinal, running his blade through the trail of Matrios's blood on the wall.
It seems half of my job has been done for me, so I thank you.
The cardinal, while still traversing the steps at a slow and threatening pace, came to the trail of the king only a few steps away. He stabbed his daggers one at a time at the king, purposely missing him to toy with him, playing with his food. Matrios felt helpless. How could he escape such an encounter? The king was broken, bruised, and bleeding, and running out of time.
Please, Ion, I beg of you.
Whimpered Matrios, feeling almost childlike at the hands of a bully.
Leave me. Name your price and I will pay it.
The cardinal stabbed a blade into the stone stop that Matrios leant upon.
Your debt can only be paid in blood, young king, and I have come to collect in full.
The cardinal flipped his the theatrical flourish, then raised them and began to strike, only to be met with a forceful kick from the king, knocking Ion down the stairs, feet over Beretta, ungraciously. Spat Ion as he fell hard, tumbling over and over until he finally caught himself and stopped his descent.
I always have to overdo it on the razzle-dazzle.
He groaned, shaking. Oh my god, that's like a line from Chucky or something.
The razzle-dazzle.
He groaned, shaking his jaw side to side to crack it. Matrios panicked and summoned all his remaining strength to climb the stairs. If only the knights weren't watching over his father, he may not be in this mess. He heard the steps of his adversary climbing the steps once more. The king managed to clear the staircase and hobbled to the nearest chamber, which held the royal balcony, where the king would stand and address his subjects for important matters.
It will have to do,
groaned Matrios, pulling himself against the wall and opening the chamber door. He turned inside and began to shut the door.
Not so fast,
laughed the cardinal, thrusting his dagger into the doorway and rendering it impossible to close. Shouted Matrios. Without the strength to force his attacker's hand from the door, a crash rang out. Matrios was sent through the air to the ground as a resounding kick from the cardinal forced the door open, showering the room in splintered wood and dust.
Please, please.
Begged Matrios, dragging himself across the carpet.
Please, not like this. I am only young.
He pleaded, holding back his true emotions as a king should.
I am only young.
So was she,
snarled the cardinal. Matrios held a look of fear and confusion at the cardinal's words. The king turned and began to crawl to the balcony that overlooked the main square of the city, painfully lurching forward with every strained grasp of his hands and legs.
Pitiful,
snarled the cardinal. With one almighty grip, Ion grabbed Matrios by his once silken, now blood-stained hair and dragged him to the balcony, then straddled him as he forced the king to look out on his burning kingdom. In the streets below, before the taking of the courtyard gates, the rats had flushed out the remaining subjects of the kingdom into a huge crowd, forcing them into an audience before the red adversary, as if by unnatural means they knew where and when the cardinal would be.
Look at them, Matrios. Look upon the faces of the people who you have failed,
boasted the cardinal, pulling the king's head backwards to look down upon his subjects.
Look at the death that could have been avoided if the actions of your father had not ruined the lives of others, forcing them into the shadows for a lifetime.
Slowly the cardinal drew a blade, emblazoned with Max's family symbol, and held the razor of its edge to the young king's throat.
What has my father got to do with this?
Whimpered Matrios, feeling as alone as Perugio must have felt all those years ago. The cardinal sighed and closed his eyes, grimacing at the pain that had been endured for years.
Your father,
he sneered,
has a lot to pay for.
Matrios listened to what the cardinal had to say as hundreds of desperate eyes watched their king held captive on his knees above.
Your father was quite the charmer, Matrios. There's no doubt about that.
Ion began to explain, holding the knife firmly into his throat.
You've heard the tales of your father's promiscuity, I'm sure. He was ever fond of showing his wild oats, I think we can all agree.
Matrios said nothing.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, it did now. Did you not think it was strange your brother's mother died shortly after his birth? Did you not think it was strange that you and yourself have no memories of your own? Your father was never fond of having extra weight around, Matrios. You seemed children he could placate and hand off, leave to be cared for by someone else in his stead. But someone who could possibly inherit his wealth or have a say in his kingdom? No. You couldn't have that at all. What are you implying?
Groaned Matrios as he felt the sharp blade in his neck. The cardinal chuckled at his naivety.
Pythia lived in this kingdom, Matrios. It was her home, and your father had his repugnant eyes on her for a long time, watching her from afar. He promised her riches, power, all to beguile her and steal her from her that which she had not given to anyone else thus far, her innocence.
Explained Ion, snarling.
He ravaged her. He took from her all that he wanted and discarded her like vermin. He cast her broken and violated into the streets, denying all knowledge of their companionship, leaving her for almost dead. My father would never do something like that.
Grunted Matrios.
There is a lot your father would do to protect himself, Matrios.
Sighed the cardinal.
The rat forced her out of the kingdom to wander the wilds on her own, alone and scared. In the months following, she grew ill and took sanctity and shelter from an ancient sisterhood of sin, who cared for her and in secrecy began to weave her forbidden knowledge of practices far beyond the realms of man's understanding. She discovered as the months grew in length that an ailment did not strain her body, but life. She felt agony, she felt sickness, she felt a kick. As for her song, I'm sure you would recognize it, Matrios. Your father found comfort in a tune he would whistle as a young man. He'd tell my mother in time it would become a lullaby for his children. She knew it would lure you all out of hiding eventually.
Ion explained. Matrios' eyes looked down upon his subjects.
Her life has been devoted to this very moment, King Matrios. To take from that man everything he has. His wealth, his power, and his children. I am sorry that this is the way destiny is called to you, Golden Child. But the tarot cards have been read.
Matrios began to whimper.
All my life I have served my father, my brothers, my kingdom. I have done all that is required of me as a son and a prince. I have tried my best.
He whimpered, his jaw trembling.
Please, Cardinal, I beg of you, please, not like this. Please.
Matrios pleaded, begging for his life.
Please, please.
He cried out.
Please.
In that moment, Matrios finally allowed himself to feel, as a cascade of repressed tears ran down his chin, splashing onto the floor with thunderous crashes. The king cried for all the years he was allowed to, before his subjects on the balcony above them.
Please.
He whispered.
Any final words, Lord Eternus III?
Asked the cardinal, who seemed very slightly shaken by Matrios' reaction. Matrios looked to his subjects with eyes red from tears and hoped his mother would be waiting for him, with his brothers by her side.
Meliora,
whispered Matrios.
Meliora, I am sorry, brother, truly,
said the cardinal softly. Ion dug his blade into the side of Matrios' throat, cutting mercilessly and viciously as the king kicked and screamed through the agony. Royal blood covered the tiles of the balcony and poured out over the edge down to the courtyard below. Finally, it was done. Panting, the cardinal stood as Matrios' corpse gurgled, spluttering the final pumps of blood. He gripped the severed head of Matrios by his matted hair and raised it high for the subjects to see. The dead king's makeup smeared the streaks of tears down its cheeks.
Do you see this?
Proclaimed the cardinal, shaking Matrios' head high above him.
The king is dead. I am your king now. By blood I claim this throne. By blood I have taken it.
He screamed into the night.
All hail your new king.
The crowd below was silent. They did not gasp, nor did they respond. They would not give this monster satisfaction. The crowd slowly dispersed into the smoldering city, trembling over the legions of dead rats that lay on the ground.
Was it something I said?
Shrugged Ion. He suddenly felt the uneasy presence of watchful eyes upon him. Could it be that some of the subjects below still stood staring at this monster up high? He kept his wits about him as he began to pace the tiles of the room, inspecting the darknesses where something veiled could be hiding.
It's all going to your head, Ion.
He sneered to himself before turning back.
Shit!
The bloody cardinal shrieked, throwing his hands to his shoulders in terror as he came face to face with a line of monstrous servants that stood only an inch from his rather crooked nose. It was the knights.
Ah, yes.
Said the cardinal, holding Matrios's head that sat shaking rather grotesquely in his grip, still dripping.
I'd heard about you.
The knight, Hummus, stepped forward and thrust out his hand. The cardinal winced in hesitation. Just to find the servant with an upturned palm, the cardinal investigated his empty palm.
Oh, what do you have for me? A gift?
He asked, looked the knight up and down before realizing what he wanted.
Yes, the head.
Ion agreed and handed the lifeless head to the masked guardian.
I'm sure you'll find somewhere nice for it.
The tall knight looked closely into Ion's eyes, threateningly for a moment, then slowly turned and left with its comrades. For what reason they did not attack Ion was up for debate, yet the reasons were their own.
Okay.
Shrugged Ion. As the days passed by, Ion kept himself resigned to the balcony chamber, repeating the events of his life that culminated in the events of only a few days prior. He had discarded his red and soiled cassock for a more modest, overly slim-fitting black suit with coattails. He had once tamed his hair and trimmed his mustache, even going so far as to paint around his eyes to resemble... Huh?
You're fine now. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Even going so far as to paint black around his eyes to resemble, if ever so slightly, the kings that came before him. The cardinal lay on a velvet lounger, eating grapes rather clumsily and sipping the finest wine. No one had dared bother him since his arrival, no doubt too fearful. So he had been left to his own devices and moments of quiet contemplation. Years of his life ran through his mind. He saw himself struggling as a child with a poor mother who had been vilified for suggesting she mothered the bastard child of a king. He remembered the pain of being beaten countless times when stealing food to bring back, and how this nose had been broken multiple times, misshaping it. He remembered the childlike terror at the thought of being taken in any way from his mother, his world. The biting fear of loneliness had always stung him greater than the fist or blade of any adversary. It was a fear that had stuck with the child to this very day.
And look at me now,
he announced to the quietness of the room, the stench of old blood still lingering in his senses. The cardinal sipped his wine, enjoying the quiet of the night and the gentle breeze that ran in through the open balcony. That was until the soft and gentle melodies of a guitar being plucked rang out from the city below.
What?
Said the cardinal, his head turning. Ion took his chalice of wine to the balcony, where he should have been met with a cold sapphire hue sky's colors on the city. He instead found himself standing before an ocean of amber lights.
What is this?
He whispered to himself. After huge crowds, the city square was filled with still citizens, holding candles and flying lanterns, illuminating their faces of hope and sadness. The congregation of subjects stood together, some holding hands or linked by arms, looking up to the very spot where Matrios had lost his life in respect of their golden child, their beloved Matrios Eternus. The guitar rang out again, and a sea of hopeful voices sang out into the night.
Do you want to sing this?
You can do it.
I'm taking the reins. He is my brightness in the night, without whom I would not see.
The crowd sang into the skies, releasing their amber-glowing flying lanterns into the sky, guiding Matrios' spirit to the heavens to be rejoined once more by his brothers.
He is kindness, he inspires, he's the rose of earth's great feast.
The cardinal watched the lanterns as they floated into the night sky to join the stars, and a pang of remorse stung at his stomach.
I shouldn't have eaten those grapes.
He groaned, holding his belly. The crowd sang and cheered, crying for their beloved king, who did whatever he could for his kingdom, ultimately losing his life for them. They danced and embraced each other as their words sang out into the clouds.
Resilient bunch, aren't you?
Groaned Ion, chugging his wine and throwing his chalice to the ground. The memorial and festivities in honor of Matrios went on into the night, forcing the cardinal to keep himself hidden within the confines of the castle. He donned his many-pointed cape and took off into the castle depths, illuminating his journey by torchlight. Passing by paintings of the kings, he saw Matrios, Stenduio, Peregio, and Nemo, and thought it strange there were no more. Just who ruled this kingdom before Nemo? He shrugged and carried on his journey, discovering for himself the rooms and secrets that the castle had to offer. Turning a corner, the caped cardinal found himself within a great library. The walls were lined with towering levels of tomes and grimoires of ancient standing. Cobwebs held the books within their dust-covered embrace, highlighted dimly by low burning jar candles placed around the room. The cardinal ran his fingers across the table as he traveled by, displacing a large line of dust as he went.
Disgusting. Ugh.
He winced. Books and documents of all kinds could be found within the great library. Scriptures, recipes, and even documents pertaining to the kingdom. He began to read the many titles on the book spines as he walked by.
Oh, these are just names of the...
This
This is the cardinal. Never mind, sorry. I thought this was just text. How to identify poisons? No. The importance of improper technique? No. Upon contracting vampirism? No.
Hey, vampirism. The cardinal doubling back to the last title.
Perhaps for a rainy day?
The cardinal took the book and placed it inside his jacket for another time.
Dracopia.
That's awesome, because he's done a lot of that art too. So I love that he
Yeah.
put that little reference in there. That's cool. Something creaked behind him, turning the cardinal on his heels. It was the knights.
Ah, yes.
Said Ion.
I knew you would turn up sooner or later.
The knight said nothing but extended a hand and beckoned for their new master to follow. In return, the dark servants turned back and headed off into the depths of the castle.
Big talkers.
Sighed Ion. After a small journey into the blackness of the castle, which would usually be lit by multiple candles, the knights brought Ion to the entrance of the dungeons and brought him to stand before the great iron doors.
I'm not falling for this.
Boasted Ion, turning to leave. What'd you say it was, Hummus?
Hummus, yeah.
Hummus picked Ion up from the back of his jacket with an unnatural grip and turned him back to face the door.
On second thoughts, maybe I am.
Agreed Ion. The knights marched Ion to a cell and stood around its entrance. They encouraged their master to look around, but the simple task seemed difficult.
What? What?
Groaned the cardinal.
What is it you're trying to show me? You know, if you just said something, we could be done with all done with this.
He moaned. Before him, the signs of a lived-in cell were apparent. A bucket of fresh water lay on its side. Roasted meat sat uneaten in the hay that was strewn across the floor, and something else that lay hidden. The knight stepped back. Ion knelt and displaced the hay to find Nemo's Maita. He frowned at the sight and smell of it, feeling the uncurable rage wash over him that had fueled him to get this far with his revenge. He spun around and cast the Maita to the floor, stamping on it like a crazed beast. "Thank you,"
Where is he?
screamed Ion as spit dripped from his mouth.
Where is that bastard? Fucking Nemo.
The knights parted to reveal Nemo's name etched into a board, identifying this as his cell.
What?
Spat Ion.
If he's not here, then where is he?
He roared. Ion leapt from the cell and ran through the castle and back up the great stone staircase until he reached the balcony once more. He perched his hands on the rail for support and looked out beyond the revelers. To see if he could survey his newly acquired kingdom. Nothing.
Shit.
Screamed Ion into the night.
I'll find you, Nemo. If it's the last thing I do, I will find you.
Beyond the confines of the kingdom, beneath the pale glow of piercing moonlight, a horse escaped into the night, far away from a kingdom once proud, far away from a kingdom now lost.
There's your encore, everyone.
Oh, why? Oh, man.
Demetrius is fucking gone.
I think you were right when your guess in the beginning that the prologue was maybe Nemo. Unless it reveals it to be somebody else, maybe it's Nemo in hiding, or maybe.
So far, he's quite literally the only old person that's been mentioned. So, so like it would make sense, but there's always like that possibility of some wiggle room.
Yeah. All right, let me take this off here.
Can you imagine another encore? Chapter 8. Chapter.
No. You guys will be reading it on your own. Oh my god, it was a great chapter, and I love the whole taking that whole thing from like magazine covers and things like that with like the severed head of Terzo. So I love that was actually included in here.
It matches up.
Thank you, Goulet. Bravo, historian.
You made it through, man.
Oh my lord, that was a journey. Just that one.
It was so good. It was so fun. You did great reading it. You've learned how to say Maita, which has been a wonderful progression.
Oh my god! From the beginning of the stream to the end of the stream. That's how long we've been here. Oh god! But man, this story is just so good. Like we keep saying it, but this is really good. It's
incredibly well written. I adore Matrios's and Ion's characters. Especially how they like contrasted each other just there, where Ion so clearly had a goal in mind that he was not gonna wait until he won.
Yeah. Bar says I miss Matrios. I just lost him, so I still.
I miss him too.
You also finished the book. Yeah.
My head hurts.
And I'm not the one reading it. That's how literally I feel right now, Aves. My head hurts.
That's the wine, buddy.
I was about to say. And he kept saying the chalice and drinking the wine, and I'm like, that's what did it. That's what did it. Oh man, so now I'll have to rest that one. But this was really good. Like this book is surprising me. Only minor, tiny, like literally insignificant gripes were just like, I just wish there was a little more in terms of sense of like location, like setting, like maybe a little world building with more descriptions of like the surroundings and stuff. But maybe that comes
Kingdom
later.
of Eternus.
Yeah, like what the I would love maybe some type of to kind of picture like a little map or something. But I guess in a way you can with like the place talking about the courtyard and then the main stuff, and then so you can kind of do it.
The market stalls back in, what was it, chapter 2 with Stenduia?
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, the character work has been super good. I just love the seamless what we know from the lore just seamlessly fitting in here, song titles, song lyrics.
Yeah.
Like it's like the best pretty much if somebody had put together like the best fan fiction, but it's just a tier above that, it's really good. And it has
It
actual
is.
like mysteries that I'm like really intrigued to like discover what's behind all of them. So I'm really invested in.
Yeah, man. I love how it takes like a bunch of things. Like some things are thrown at you, and it's like, oh yeah, he said "mummy dust," like the song "Mummy Dust." But then other things like Meliora means better time, and those were his last words, which is great in the story, but also great for a fan because that's the name of an album.
Yeah,
It's this
exactly.
perfect. It's a nice little melding of everything, and I'm very happy that it's going so well.
Yeah, and I'm
So
glad we
far.
have so much more to go, and that it's not even just this. It's not even confined to just this book. There's those short stories, like the whole Nemo backstory one.
I've
Like I'm
read that
getting
one.
more. You've read it, dude.
I've read it
Calm down.
already. I've
Oh,
also read one of the other stories that he wrote in the Brothers Fore universe.
oh, so there's like something that's in that universe, but it's maybe not completely like.
It's Pythia related.
Oh my god.
It's in the similar vein of the Nemo one, as if it's like it's before the Brothers Fore. I've read both of those, and as far as I know, those are the two serious canon ones. But I also know there's like it's like the underburrows of Cardinal Squeaks, where you follow a cardinal, no, a rat who got a scrap from Ion's cape, and just took place as him as being a little cardinal.
Jeez.
And he's a rat. I haven't read that one fully yet, but it's cute.
Oh, so that's the thing. Because in his shop,
That's the sticker.
he kind of had like a rat that had like a little, like you just said, like a little red cloak and everything. Okay.
Yeah, that's Cardinal
Oh.
Squeaks. He's an actual character with his own
Oh
like
my
3-part
God.
story.
Jeez. So there you go. We got a lot of stuff to cover this universe. That's not even including the upcoming the whole prequel novel, which is more Matrios, right? So for everybody who's missing Matrios, I think the whole novel is just him. So I'm curious of where exactly it fits. But I think we did do a little bit of a time skip, right? When he was crowned. So I guess it's
in
those
the Instagram post and the Patreon post, he said that it is a full prequel. So it's while he was just Prince, maybe before he went on the battlefields. Because he said we will see younger versions of Pregio and Stenduia.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so we get more time with these characters, not just in other people remembering them or getting maybe a little. Ooh, this is interesting.
I miss Pregio, so I would love to see more of him.
I was gonna say, since you have access to it and he allowed it, maybe for the upcoming streams, does he like each of these chapter art? Because somebody mentioned here, you know how we get them in black and white. Does he have the colored versions of each of these chapter art?
He does. Yeah, he uploaded them.
If you want, maybe you can send them over and I can make them as slides so that we can present like the full colored version. Not right now, but like maybe like future as we keep going. Like if we maybe send me like 3 or 4 each week at a time, and depending, because usually that's what we cover, 3 to 4 chapters, and then that way we could show them the full colored art, and so that would be cool.
He has a whole post that's just like the Brothers Fore art. And I remember that because when I was looking through them, this was before I actually fully read the Brothers Fore, and I was like, I can't just see them now. I don't know if they're going to spoil anything.
Yeah,
they're all here. They're all in color.
I mean, if you quickly can show something, you can even share your screen by hitting the present at the bottom if you'd like.
I could, but I don't want to spoil anything by accident.
Then yeah, maybe next time we just send them individually to me, and that way we don't potentially, because I don't want to get spoiled either. Yeah. All right.
Oh, actually, I found. Oh no, this is a spoiler. Holy shit! Yeah, no, I can't show this one. I thought this was a different scene. Jesus Christ! I almost spoiled a massive thing.
Yeah, no, please.
Jesus. Technical difficulties, everyone. I'm stupid.
Any more art that maybe is not the chapter headers, but maybe is art that pertains to what's going on in the chapters, or he doesn't really do that.
It's just the art that we see in between the headers.
Between
It's
the headers,
the
okay.
inside paintings. Yeah.
Okay.
I maybe we should pass. I have this one. How do I? I'm trying to figure out. I'm not trying to find out. I'm not spoiling anything. Present share screen.
No, Goulet, I mind spoilers, okay? And I'm look at me. I'm the captain now. Okay, so I'm because I read the last page of the book. Yeah, no, we're not going by your formula.
I'm streaming on the thing. How do I show this to you?
Okay, I can bring it up. Maybe when you
Yeah.
say okay, I'm ready, making sure there's no spoilers, then I can bring it in.
I've only got one pulled up at the moment because if I change them in that like quick loading flash, it shows one of the spoiler ones. So you're only getting one, but I will send the rest to you.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
For future ones, so I'm ready.
Okay. So bring it up, and then I'll hit add to stage.
Yes.
There you go. All right. So here we go. Oh, that was. Oh, let me rearrange our little thing. Let's go to this one. There we
The
go.
fact that I can't see anything is disconcerting to me. Because I'm just like, this is how it feels on your end. I don't like this. And Johnny Bush even added like some text next to it on the making of the art. It was really cool to paint this composition. When you reach this part of the story, you'll understand its meaning. For some reason, the large portrait took hours to paint because my brain stopped working, and it was like I'd never painted before in my life. And this one is titled Meliora. And you can see the young Matrios here that became the more older one is the stress weighed on him, and a little red cardinal.
Man, that's a good one. Man, yeah. So definitely, like, for the future stream, send me these, and then that way we can present them. Yeah, that'd be cool. Nice. Well, there you go, guys. There was at least one of the chapter headings in like the full color, so that's cool.
Very fun. I am a massive fan of the art in the book, and why did someone say careful now, Chronicle? What did I do?
Rocco, because you were like, you were like, oh, this would have been a huge spoiler.
Would have been a massive spoiler.
So, like, careful now, careful.
Careful, Icarus.
And Goulet's like, Goulet likes spoilers. No. Shh. No.
Goulet, if we somehow ever chat outside of a stream chat, I will absolutely yap fully. Chronicle, tell us in the Brothers 4 thread and Discord, I need to talk about this. How do I spoiler my thing so I don't spoil it for the people in the Discord that doesn't want? Just tell me in the Discord, actually.
You guys could have like a little channel in there that's just all about like the Brothers 4 stuff.
Yeah.
That I will never look at.
I get scared of the Discord.
No, like I won't look at that one because it could have spoilers. Like like if you do like a Brothers 4 chat or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I just won't look at that. Let's see. But yeah. All right, man. I think we are almost at 3 hours, so I think we are good.
Is this our little record breaker of longest episode? Damn.
Oh man. It was fun though, and this story is really good. It's just me, like I tell you guys, I start 3 or 4 chapters in, I just like I start chugging along right there at the end. It says bar Historia where we spoiled all text in there, so it's all good. Oh, we spoiler all text in there, so it's all good. Just don't click on the spoilers. Okay. Apparently I do not have these capabilities on Windows 95. Too bad. Oh my god. What? All right, Goulet, what's going on here? Something about older men. Okay.
Yeah, right.
I know it's my time to depart.
Older man appreciation there.
All right. Any final words, Kane? I mean, these were really interesting, and honestly, I just can't wait to keep reading. And I like that we're piecemealing it, so it kind of gets us through this patch where there's like not
You have
much
to
else
theorize
going
on what's
on in
going to
the.
happen.
Yeah.
You have to think about it. I also thank you all for suffering with my voices and the fact that it sounded like I was an insane person rocking back and forth in his padded cell, talking to myself, especially with that Crypt Keeper scene. And support Johnny Bush.
Yeah, really. As we said, the links will be down below in the description. Purchase the book if you can, or even sign up to his Patreon, whatever you guys can do to support him. Because this is a really interesting story, and I'm loving it so far. So
I am fully adoring this. I almost turned my camera on. That would have been horrible.
and an amazing job, dude. Thank you for putting up with me, but you do an amazing job with all these freaking voices. I'm like, man, if they ever do an official audiobook, they have to at least get you for the for the voices.
I would work for peanuts. If Johnny Bush was like, "Hey, do you want to do the voice?" I'd be like, "Yes." How many of them do you want me to do? I'll do it for free.
God, what I would really love is a comic book adaptation.
Yes,
not even like a movie or an animated, just somebody to come in and because some of these scenes that this is painting in your head are like super cool. Like I want to see that whole fight scene with Matrios and man, I want to see that at least in comic book form, like everything that had to offer. So yeah, man, I can't wait to keep reading this. So
it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, of course, man. SKELETALK will only be me and you for all times, forever.
With my luck, mate, with my with the midnight release thing, my things being burned, I wouldn't be surprised if I got hit by a car. So you might have to schedule up a second host.
No. Oh my God. We'll keep you in a glass coffin in the catacombs of the channel.
Listen, this is in my last will and testament. If I die and get perfectly preserved, you can put me in a glass coffin and live stream me for 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Just so people can watch me. Just my dead body. You have to put me in cool makeup though.
All right, before Cade gets even more grotesque around here, I guess it's time to take our leave.
More grotesque? I moaned on stream last time. I can't get any worse. I passed the barrier, man.
At least we didn't get any of those chapters in a way.
That's true.
I know people might have had fun with those, and maybe you had fun with the voices, but
it was fun to read. It wasn't fun to read out loud.
Yeah, it was nice. It was like, all right. So, well, he's dead now. The guy who does that. So I don't expect Ion to be having that, but the prequel novel might. So.
Oh no. I'm gonna have to do it more. I just got hit with psychic damage.
All right, but all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully you're here next time when we read another 3 to 4, maybe leaning more till 3 chapters of the Brothers Fore. So thank you guys for joining us.
It's been fantastic to have you all. You're all wonderful and beautiful. Take care. Be kind to each other. Stay sanitized.
Bye, guys.